lapis lazuli medicine Buddha statues.
有一尊伟
There's a
大
great
庄严
Buddha
的佛
who
陀，
made 12
他有
great
着12
vows.
大愿，愿愿皆为
All
圆
his
满，
vows
一
were
切
made to
众生
perfect
愿。
human lives.
他能为
He
人
can
们解决
liberate
各
human
种
beings
贫、病，
from poverty,
苦、
pain, sufferings, and sickness,
并且圆满
and
众生
provide all
一切生活
necessities to
所需。
all human beings.
他身上绽放
His
着
body
湛蓝，
radiates blue
如
light
天空
as
一样
beautiful
美
as
丽的
the
光
color
芒。
of the sky.
光芒象征着沉静、
His radiance
光明、
symbolizes
通
purity,
达、智
wisdom,
慧，
light,
没有烦恼。
and calm.
原来，这是来自
This
东
is the
方净
light
琉璃世
of
界
medicine Buddha
药师
from
佛
the
陀的光芒。
Eastern paradise.
菩提禅修此次推出
Medicine
的药
Buddha
师佛像
statues
为
are
古法
baked
琉璃烧制，
using
颜
ancient
色有
techniques.
天蓝色和
Statues
紫
are
蓝色
available
两
in
种。
sky blue and
药
violet
师
blue.
佛通体明
Statues
澈，
appear
庄严华贵。
luxurious and
此佛
dignified.
像经金菩提
Each
禅师
statue
特
has
别
been
加持，
blessed by Master JinBodhi.
凡诚心
The
供奉
statue
者，可
blesses
得智慧增长，
worshippers with
驱邪避
wisdom,
灾，
prosperity,
天福增寿，
longevity, health,
安康
and
吉祥等
auspiciousness.
不可思议的大能量护佑与加持。
It also helps to dispel
药师佛像的
calamity
高
and
度
evil.
有
The
8公分
statues are available
和
in
10
sizes
公
of
分两
8
种，
centimeters and
可
10
供奉于
centimeters.
殿堂佛
You
台
can，place the statue on altar,
可摆放在
or
书桌、
your writing
办
desk.
公桌等适当位置上。欢迎广大朋友
For
迎
purchase
请
and
供奉。
inquiries,
详情
please
请洽询
contact your
全球
local
各地
Bodhi
菩提禅
meditation
堂。
centers.
各位网友朋友，大家好。
Hello, my dear friends. Hello,
今天我
everyone.
们又见面了啊！
So we meet again today.
这是第30期。
So this is
祈
part
福共
30
修
of
还是呢，
chanting
想
group
解答一下
practice.
网友的来信。
I like to answer
我
some of the
每天都
questions
收到
from
大
my
量的
online
信
friends because every day I
那
receive
今天呢，
lots
我
of
会选择一
messages
部分
and
比较有
questions
代
from our
表性
online
的
friends.
或
I'll
者
just
是普
choose
遍性的
a
一些
few
问
of
题
them. Some of
来
them
和
are
大家交
common
流。
questions.
我还是会提前
So
声
I
明，
will
这
discuss
是
with
我
you.
所讲的话，
Well,
而不是
before
真
all
的。
that, I'd like to
这是
mention
我
that
自己的一种判
this
断，
may
一
not
种
be
感
the
觉
truth. It's just my
供你参
own
考。
opinion, my own
当然了，是希望你
you know,
所
ideas just for
少
your
走弯
reference.
路，
But I
啊
do hope that it
呃
will help
就是
to
少惹
prevent
些
you
麻烦。
from
尤其是年轻人啊，
getting into
就
troubles,
是你
especially
对
for
事情的
youth.
判断，
You know,
很多时候
some
是
young
因为
people,
没有经
their
验，
decision
经
or
历过，
their
就
judgments
根本不懂得这个事
were
情是什么样。
not right. It's because of lack of
就像很多你说
experience
你
and
13
they
岁小
don't
女孩，
really know what
你
it
根本
is.
不懂
Say,
得
for
说
example, a
有一天
13-year-old girl,
你
they
33
they
岁之后
never
做妈妈之后的一
they
种
never
体会。
knew like
对，
what will
所以就是
they
很多这个
feel
经验哈，
after they
呃，
become a
经历
mother
的
like
事情
on
还
33
非
years
得
old
去
or
经历过，
so
才可能有
you
经验。
really need to
当我们
experience
太
it so
年
that
轻，
you
没有
can
经历过，
have the
真弄不懂。
experience. And if you have never experienced it,
幸亏我活
really
到
it's
现在
hard
了
for
啊，
people to, you know,
所
to
以会有
imagine.
一些
It's
人生的
good
经
that
验。
I'm
哎，
already at
所
this
以这
age, so I've already had
师
some
傅
life
就
experiences.
跟师
Okay,
傅直
Joyce.
接来做这种
Well,
问
thank
答
you,
哈，是我们网
Grandmaster.
友特别喜欢的一个直播的
It's
内容。
one of the
今天
most
第一个问
favorable
题是来自
part
一个
for
青
our
年
online
人的，
friends
他
to,
问说，
you know,
在工
to
作
to
中
listen to your
如
answers to the
何更
questions.
好的来
So
管
the
理自
first
己的
question
情绪？
is
在职场里
how
边呢，
to
什么话要
manage
多说，什
our
么话不要
emotions in the
说。
work, like what kind of words we should say and
所以
say
这
more
个
and what kind of
这
words
位
we
青
should
年网友
not
的
say.
问题
So
有
this is
2个
from
部
a
分。
young friend.
对，
哎，一个是说在
So
工作中，
Grandmaster said
如何管理
this
情绪的部分。
question actually has two
那
parts.
么第
The
二个
first
才是
is
说
for managing
对说
emotions.
话
The
的这
second
个细
is
节，
for
什么样
the
的话要多
details. So
说，
what kind
什
of
么话
words
少说。
and I mean,
啊，
what
先说
should
这个
they
职场的
say
情
more
绪。
and what should they
对，
say less?
那
So let's
我的人
first
生经验告诉我
talk
们，
about
通
emotions.
常是你
My
选择这份
experience
工
is
作，
that if you
你就
have
应该热爱
already
这份工作。
chosen this work, you
我们
should
比如说，
love the
你
work.
未
Say,
来
for
你要考
example,
状元，
in the future,
那
you
古
want
人
to
来
be
讲
a
的话，考上
champion.
状元就
And
是
for
做
ancient
官
people,
啊，到皇帝
if
身
they
边，
are
或者
like
成为政府
the
的高级
first,
官员。
they are the
但是呢，
best in all the
你现在还
exams, and
没
they
有
can
中
be
状元，
high-level officials.
你
But
在考试之前
before
的
they
一段
become the champion,
一个
and
经历啊，比如说你
it's
现在就
like
是学生，
before the exam, they're just a student.
那你
They
应该怎样
haven't
看待自己的
been
情绪呢？
number one yet.
还
So
有
how
说
should
我要
you
去进京赶考，
manage your
我还需要
emotions?
路
And some
费，
people say,
可是家里
oh, they
贫
need
穷，
to go to the
那
capital
我还需
city
要去
to do the
到
exam,
私塾
but they
去
were
教一些其他的小
very
孩子们读
they
书，
don't have
就
enough
像今天
money
做
to
家
pay
教
for the
一样，
expenses, so they
啊，
have to
赚
go
点零
to
花钱，
maybe a
啊，
private
攒起来之
school
后，
to teach
我
some
好去，比
students
如
so
说
that
给
they
老
can
母治病，
earn some
或者我
income
进京赶考，都是需要
to
费用，
help
这是我
maybe
自己生
to
活
help
也需
the
要费用，
mother to go to
所
see
以
a
的话，
doctor and also pay for the
就是未来
travel expenses to go to
你
the
哪
capital
怕
city.
成为高级的
So
政府
in
官
the
员，
future, even
但是此时
if
此
you
刻，
can be a very
你要
high
扮演
level
好
official,
你此时的这
right
个人生角
now
色。
you need to play
比如
well
说你做
your
师傅先
role
生，
at the present moment.
对，
Say, for
今天
example,
来说
you're just
补
a
课老
teacher
师，
in a private school, or
或
maybe just a
是私
tutor,
立学校老
or
师，
maybe, yeah,
那
a
你
teacher in
做
a
好，
private school. Then you
因为
just
你还
do
没有
this
做高级
work
官
well
员，
because you
对不
are
对？
not
那你不要想
that
我还怕你
officer
们这
yet.
些啊，
You
你们
should
这些
not
人太庸
think
俗了，
think that,
我是多高
oh,
贵高雅的，
I'm a
啊，我是
very,
心
you
中
know,
装满了天
superior
下的，
person. I have
我
the
未来可
whole
以
world
在
in my
总统旁
heart,
边工作，
and maybe I'll work with the
未来还没有
president.
发生。
Well, that's
一
the
切都
future.
不
It
是
hasn't
定论。
happened yet. It's not
那
fixed.
你今天是为
And
了这个
today,
挣这个零花钱，
in order
你就应该
to
把今天
earn
的
that
眼
income,
前的工
you
作
take that
认
job.
认
So
真
you
真
need
的
to
去做。
do that job
要想做
really
好工
well.
作，所以要有一
In
个
order
很
to
积
do the
极
job
正面的
well,
心
you
态。
need to have a very
对不对？
positive mind, an
你不能说，哎呀，
attitude.
今天我做的工作是低
You
级的，
shouldn't say, oh,
我
this
未
is
来
a
我
low
是在
level
总统
work.
旁边
In
工
the
作，
future, I'll work with the
所以这么的
president.
低级的工作，
So such
我
a
很
low
藐视
level
它，
work,
所以
I
我还不乐意做。
like,
那你这样就会
I
自
I
然
don't really
就给自
like
己
it.
带出负
Well,
面情绪，
that
对不对？
attitude
对。
will bring
所以
you a very
抵触
negative
啊。
emotion.
所以
So you
你在
see,
这个时
then
候
it will bring
和
lots
你
of
所有接触的
yeah
人当
negative
中接触的
emotions.
时候，
And so
一
when
定
you are
会
dealing
很
with
有
other people, it's more
所以
likely
我
that
提
you
醒
have
呢，年轻的
unpleasant
朋友，提问这位这个问
encounters
题的
or
朋友啊，就是你在
you know
任何一个时
experiences.
期，
So I'd like
面
to
对你的
remind
工作，
this
或者
young
面对你
friend
此时正在是做学生
whenever
的时候，
you know
应该都
you're
保持一个
facing
很积
any
极正面
any you know
向上的心
problem,
态，
you
是
should
快乐
always
的
try
心
to
态，
keep a
哎，是
very
感恩的心，
positive and
你
active
这件事儿就能做出
and you know
从疲
happy
劳
and
的
even
工作变成
grateful
享受性
mind.
工作。
And so a
对，
very
所以
tiring
从
work
疲
can
劳的工
turn
作和享受
into
工
a
作，
very
其实做的是
enjoyable
同一
work.
种工作，
Actually,
但
you're
是你
doing
的
the
感受
same
是完
job,
全不
but
同。
you're
是
feeling
吧？
completely
疲劳
different.
的那
That
种感受，
exhausting
或者是很烦的
feeling
感受，
or like
通常是
boring
负面的
feeling
心情。
usually are very negative.
那比较
But
享受
a
式的工
very
作呢，通常
enjoyable
是有
work,
一种更高境
it
界的欢喜接
usually
受，
you
还
know
有
you're in a
有
higher
感恩心
state,
的
you're very
这种状
happily
态，
accepting
你
it,
才
and
会
you are
在工
thankful.
作中找到快
And
乐。
so in that
就是
state,
这
then
样
you
子。
will
所以呢，
find
在职
joy
场
in
上，
the job,
在
in the
工作
work.
中，
And
无论
therefore
临
in
时
our
性工
work,
作
whether
还是
it's a
长久
temporary
性工
one
作，
or if
都
it's
应
a
该有个
long-term
正面
work,
的心
you
情
should
啊，积极的
always
想
try
法，
to have a
阳
very
光的
positive
想法，
attitude, a
阳
very
光的
you
情
know
绪，情绪也分
joyful
正面、负
and
面嘛，
positive
要用正面
emotion.
阳光的这
So
种情绪
like
来
you're
带着
always
自己
full
往
of
前走，
sunshine
我
and
们的工作会更
allow
好。
the sun
而
to
且会享
shine
受
on us so that
并
we
且
can
疲劳感比较少。
enjoy the job and we don't feel so much fatigue
很
in
重
such
要。
我觉得我这个
mindset.
回答会对
I don't
我
know
们这位
if
提问题的
my
朋友怎么
answer
样？
would,
我相
you
信
know,
会有很
help
多的启
you,
发。
my friend.
好，
So Joy said,
那我就讲你的第二个
I'm
问
sure
题
it
哈，
will help.
就是什么样
the-
的话
the
该
friend
多说和少说的问
Okay,
题。
now the second
其
part
实这
is
东西啊，
what
没有
words should
一个
say
一个
more
固
and what
固定
should
的模式，
say less.
它
Well,
分
we
你
don't
所
have
在
a
的那种
fixed,
不
you know,
同的机
pattern
构、不同的
or
公司、
it
不同的工
depends
厂，
on different
不同的场景。
companies, different
哎，
enterprises, different
就是但
situations.
是呢，
But
我的感觉还是
my
像前面有点类似啊。
feeling is also similar to the
你
first
凡
part
是
of
和
the
你的
question.
同事、上
Whenever
司
you
说话
are
的时候，
talking
首先
to
要有
your
一个积极
colleagues
正
or
面的心
even
态。
your, you know, your
所以
boss, you
和
should
上
first of
司
all
说
have a
话，
very
包括
positive
和家庭
mindset.
中长辈说话，
And
和老
in
师说话，
talking to your
通常
boss or even just
我
your
们对应该表达
senior
的
people in the family,
是好，
elderly
可以，
people in the
我行，
family. Most of the time, you should
没
say,
问题。
sure, okay,
啊，
no
要是这样
problem.
回答，
You
至
should
少这个
answer
问题
this
的
way.
要害点是在这里。
So
就是有
the
的人是
key
个
point
性，
for this answer should
我
be
小时候也
here.
会比
Some
较内
people
向的
have
个性。
some, you know,
啊，
personalities. Like in my
还有
childhood,
一
I
种
was
我们
quite
华人说是
introvert
谦
and
虚一点说话。
quiet. And, you know,
这
Chinese
件事你
people
能做吗？
also
能做好吗？
want to
有
be
时候
very
老板会问
modest.
你，你能
Sometimes
做好吗？
your, you know, your employer
那
might
谦虚
ask
点回
you
答，
whether you can do
我
it.
大
And
约
if
可
you
能
say
也
it
许可以。
very modestly, you would
那
say,
老板就
oh,
不知道他
probably
老
or
板
maybe.
那倒可
And
以，
then your boss might,
对不对？
you know,
因为在
get
职场上
confused.
的时候，
He would not
我现在
know
等着你做这份工作。
whether you can do it
比
or
如
not.
说
But
你在餐馆
in,
中切菜，是
you
吧？
know, say for
你能
example,
切
in a
好吗？
restaurant,
也
your
许大
your
概
boss
可
would
能
say, "Can you
你
cut
到底
these
可不可以？
vegetables?"
其
Whether
实你
you
不
are
肯定
able
的。
to do it, and you say
那通常你这
maybe,
样回答老
you
板
know,
去，
then
我自己
the
来
boss would say, "Okay,
你已经
then
被
I'll
炒
do
鱿
it.
鱼了。
You're just be
啊
dismissed."
所以
So
在分什么样的场合，
it depends on
我还
what
是觉得哈，
situation.
你能做这
I
份
still
工作，
feel like
并且
if
你
you
有经
can
验，
do it
有
and you
把
do
握，
have experience in
能
doing
做，你
it,
说可以，
you're sure
我
you
行
can
的。
do it, you should say,
而且我
sure.
会尽力
You
做好。
should say, yes, I'll do
要这
it.
样，回
I'll
答
do
也要
it
肯定
well.
利落。
And you should
老板也在
say
听你的
it
声音。
very, you
比如
know,
说你说
firm and
同样说
clear.
我行，
And
我表演一下哈。
I'll
这个感觉
act
的。老板呢
for it.
问我说你
For
能做
you.
吗？
Okay, so the
我有
boss
点
said,
谦
can
虚，
you
有
do
点
it?
不好
You
意
know,
思，有
I'm
点
a little
害羞。
shy, I'm a little
我
modest. And
可
I
以。
say, oh, yeah,
是这样。
maybe,
老
yeah,
板一
oh,
听
I
就
can
是
do it,
你
yeah.
后头补充
And
的
then
声音
the,
都是泄气
you
的
know,
声音，知道吗？
you know, so your
所以通
tone
常
is
是
like
怎么样
very
老板听到你的声音是行的，行，
not
可以，我没
unsure,
问题。
you know, but the
这样
boss,
回答就干净
if
利
he
落。
see
老
that,
板
sure,
就
I can
听
do
到
it.
就放心，
And
这
then
是
the boss would
100%的
think,
可以。
okay, 100% you're
那我
able to
刚
do
才的
it.
回答的方式，
But
哼
the
哈的
first
加了一些语
way
气，
when I do it,
声音又不利落的时候，
oh, when it's
老板就会
very,
开始
you know, unclear
你
tone,
到底
then
是行还是
your
不行
employer
啊
might think,
对，干脆这个工作别给你了，我
are
找
you
别人吧。
sure?
如果是个
Are you
重要
able
的
to
工
do
作的话
it?
不要给你了，
Maybe if
是
it's
吧？
a very
因为可能会
important
耽
job,
误事，
then
你可能做不好。
he probably won't
你
give
会
it
是
to
没
you
做。
because maybe he would think that
对，
you have never
所以
done
呢，
it and maybe you don't have
所以和
experience.
这个
And
老板上司交流
therefore,
的
when
时
you
候
are
啊，
communicate
如果会做的，
with your
你就
boss,
干脆利
if
落
you
的回答，
are able to do it,
别
you
谦
should
虚，
say,
别刻
yes,
意。
I can. Make
啊，
it very
那
clear.
通常的美国人容易这样的，会做
Usually,
会做，我
American
我是
people
做
will
的最
say,
专业的，是吧？
对
yes,
对
I
对
can
我
do
也
it.
比较
I'm the
直
most
白
professional.
啊，
Yes.
如果我举个例
American
子
people.
哈，
Oh, so
美国
Joyce
有
said,
一个
I
有
want
一
to
个例子
give
就
an
是美
example.
国呢，他们到那个
In
日
the
本
United
去开工
States, you
厂，
know, they
嗯，
Americans
然后就
went
刚去的时候，
to
这个美国的
Japan
文
to
化跟
open
日本的
a
文化就不
factory
太一样，
because
对，
their
然后他们一起
culture is
开会就
different.
决
And
定
so
这
when
件
they're
事
having
情
a
的，
meeting
美国
and
人
to
在前
decide
面
an
讲的
important
就
thing,
很
you
高
know,
兴，很
the
开
American
心，
people,
讨
they
论
were
这些
talking
在座
about
的
it
人
and
哈，
very
说这个
happy
这
and
个事情我们能不
excited.
能这样做
And
决定
so
啊？不
they're
可以
asking
呀。
the
在
Japanese
座
people,
每个
can
人
we
都
do
yes,
that?
OK。
And
然后
so
日本
American
人就
people would say
嗯，
yes.
全是
Okay.
这样的，
And
低个头不说话。
those
嗯，
Japanese
美国人
people
以为
would
就是默
just,
认
you
了，
know,
啊，
因为想
lower
象
their
中是
head.
这种什么
And
沉默是金
so
的哈，
those
就以
American
为
people
都默认
thought
了，
that
结果这个
they
事情后
just
来就没做，没做
agreed,
好。
嗯，
然后在
um,
总结
but
今天
then
教
the
训的
whole
时候，日
job
本人
didn't
说
do
我们一开
well.
始都没同意呀。美国
And
人说你们不
and
都是沉
so
默都是表示默认
而
的
the
且都低个
Japanese
头
people
了，
said,
对呀，
well,
啊，
他们说
we
我
didn't
们
agree.
低头不说话就是不
And
同
then
意。
American
嗯，
people said,
这
well,
你说是不是
you
造成
you
很
you
大的
sort
误
of
会？
like
对，对印度
agreed,
人
right?
更麻烦，
But then the
对呀，所以
Japanese
我
people
头
said,
又
when
比
we
较
lower
高，
our head, it means
哎
no.
哎呀，好
Well,
啊，就这样，哎，
you know,
这个
Indian
这
people
个我们
sometimes when they say,
对对对，
真的很
that's
像
very
很
good,
直
they
白
will
就很直
shake their
嗯，
head, so that would be
对，
even more
所以在
confusing.
职场上说话，
So when
通常
you're
来说就不需要
in
太
your
多的
job,
意思
you
会
should
做
not,
就是会做，
you know, you
而是
should
回
not
答
be
要干
vague.
脆利
You,
落
if you can do it,
啊
you should
是
make
吧
it very
这个
clear,
这个很正常的
very
事情，
direct.
就不要去绕
And
弯子，
so don't like
会做就好，
wind
可以
up and,
就这样。
you know, yeah.
你
So
不
if
要
you
弄
can
得
do
说
it, just say
哎呀
yes.
我们家的教训是比较文雅，会我
Don't
说
say
不会
that,
那你
oh,
这
our
叫什么？你这
culture
没有
needs
责任心，
will
对不对？老板
want
还
us
查
to
不
be
到，
more
你吵了回
graceful.
了家之后
But
说，跟
if
你
the
妈说，其
boss
实我会，老
dismiss
板不
you
理解。
and then
那
you
你那
tell
胡
your
说八道，
mom,
你
oh,
表
actually
达
I
的是什
can
么
do
呀？
it, but
你
then
表达
my
了，老板
my
就
my
认为
boss
你
didn't
会。
understand, but you
对，
expressed it in the
所
wrong
以
way, so your
你
boss
的
didn't
谦虚也
understand
分
whether
场
or
合，也
didn't
分
know
做
whether
什
you
么
can
事
do
儿，
it. So
是吧？
your
所以也
modesty
别盲目的谦虚，
shouldn't
也更
be
不要盲目的
always.
吹
Don't
牛。
be
我
blindly
发现很多
modest.
加拿大、美
Yeah,
国的老外呢，也很多
some
吹牛的。
I noticed that some Americans and Canadians, they may even boast. You know, they say, "Have you ever had lanzhou noodle?" And can you make lanzhou noodle? So one Western people said, "Well, he probably just had eaten the noodle but never made it." But he said, "Yeah, I did. I can." And some people ask, "Have you ever made that?" He would say, "Yeah, I can." But you should not pretend to be able to do that. Because you need, if you say you can, you will need to be able to do it. And if you cannot do it, then it's a problem. So I would suggest that if you can, you say yes, and if you cannot, you say no. And when you can, say it very firmly, and don't be very, vaguely. And if you cannot, you also make it very clear. Some people are afraid of disappoint their boss, and then they say, "Oh, maybe." So actually bosses are very smart. When they see that this person, their eyes are like that, and then they say the words, in such a tone, then they would already guess that you cannot. And another hint is that don't talk back. And Joy said, don't say anything emotional. So she's giving an example. She said, someone is helping her colleague, and because the colleague has too much work and cannot finish the work, and so this kind colleague is helping that. But when he's helping, he said, "See, how come you can't finish? See, I'm helping you." Well, he did help the colleague, but that colleague felt very unhappy, and they had some really, misunderstanding. He actually did the work for the colleague, but he said a lot of things that really make people unpleasant. Well, Grandmaster said, you are helping them. Don't say that you're helping. Don't tell everybody, "Oh, I'll help you, I'll help you." And when you're talking to your boss, I'll tell you another example. A lot of times, say for example, we use some designers for graphic design to design for our posters and maybe the CD covers or some other, Well, usually the designer is helping for us, and so you need to know your position. You are helping to design for this organization. When you say, for example, he has already designed, he had already had a design. Maybe the background is yellow, but my clothes is yellow too. And then you see that it's all yellow, and it's hard to distinguish. And it's hard to see the face even. It's hard to distinguish where I am in that whole picture. And so we will have a different opinion about the design. And so if the designer says, "See, I have so many prizes that I win in the college or university," but why should you say that? His, body language is showing that you cannot change my design. This is my art. And you are working for our organization. If you go home, whether you're, designing with your phone, with your computer or your pen, that's your business. But you're working for us. It needs to meet our requirements. You need to satisfy your employer or your client. You should not talk back. You should not disagree. And I ask sometimes those people, "Do you know how to do it? Because I'm hiring you to do this. You need to try to satisfy me, right? If I ask you to, sew the buttons on the clothes, and if you had two of them very loose, then I can raise my, requirements." Sometimes they say, "Oh, Master, do you know art?" I answer, "No, I just know
当然
how
懂
to
了
eat.
我那个
And
来之
I
前我
asked
都
him,
买了本
do you know
书，
how to
说
do a
怎么
good
应对
job?
面对老
And he
板
said,
我说你这
yeah,
是写的
I
是骗
know.
子书，
I bought a book
你看
even to
能
learn
做
how
的事
to
还要让老板
face your
满意
boss.
的这种
Whatever
这个
you're
做法
doing
是
in
吧？老板满
and
意，甚至觉得
whatever
100%
you're
满
working,
意，
you should try
才
to
算完
make
成
your
了这个工
boss
作。
satisfied
所以
and
很多青年
even
的就业
100%
都有一
satisfied.
个进入
So
职场之后，
young
这
people,
种叫
when
做
you
自我
start
的
to
尊
work,
严感，
you sometimes
自我
will
的认可。
feel your face, your
甚至你
dignity
推倒了他的设计之后，
when the boss
他很
like
痛苦。
deny
说
or
痛
have
苦
a
得不
different
行，哎
opinion
呀，我辞
about
职
the
我不干了，
design,
你伺候
then
不了。
they feel
所以
so
你多找几
sad
个公司
and
你就明白了，
they even
多
want
碰
to
碰壁，
quit the
对
job.
吧？
But
所以你
if
设
you
计
go
师
to more
如果为别的
companies
老
and
板
you
设
have
计，
more
人家给
setbacks,
你
then
雇
you
员的费用。
understand.
如果你
You
自
know, your
己
boss
为自
pay
己画
for
画，
this design.
你画的画好
Of
看，
course,
你
you
要
need to
能卖得
satisfy
了，
your
你
boss.
才能产
If
生
you're
价值。
just
所以一定要符合于
painting
这
by
个老板的需
yourself,
求，或者符合于市场的需求。
but even so, you know, you
才
can
是
do whatever
一
you
个
want,
很
but
好的
even
工
so,
作
you
人
still
员，
need to
是吧？
make sure
别
that
说
it
虚
can
话，别
satisfy
说
the
废
needs
话，
of the
别说
market
大
so that
话。
you can sell.
还有呢，
And so
不
for
要说
when you're
负
facing your
面情
boss,
绪的话，
don't boast, don't say
就是
anything
正面情绪
negative,
的话。如果
don't
你是个
have
普通员工，你
bad
也不可以大
emotions,
声讲，
and even you
对
have
吧？比如我
positive
们这一个办公室
words,
30
you
多个人，
cannot say it too
你就是
loud.
其
Say, for
中一
example,
个
in the office,
最
we
最
have
普通的一
30
员。
people there, and you're just
比如经常
one
是这
of
样。
them.
来
Say,
了，
for
大家注意
example,
啊！今天
you
中
say,
午哈，
"Oh,
我请客，咱们吃啥东
attention!
西？下午说
Well,
你们
this
可以早点
I'll
回家，我可以
invite
请你干
everybody
活哈。
to lunch."
那你这样做
Or
了之后，
after
你
work,
的
you say,
办公室
"Oh,
主
you
任
can
怎么
go
看？
home and I can do all the job." But if you say
你的
that
那个
loud
那个
like
科班的
that, what
那个
will
主
the
管
other
怎么
people
看待
think about you? What will
你的
your
大老板
manager
怎么
think
看待
about you? What will your director think
叫做
about you?
哗众取宠，华
You're
而不
like
实。这
very
种人 就是
you
身
you are
上长刺
showing
的人，
off.
你
Like
会被开
you
除的。
you could even be dismissed
所以
because
这种
you're
哗
like
众取
having
宠的话，
um
听起来看起
yeah,
来
it
都是正面的，
sounds
是
positive,
你唱了别人的戏
but
啊。
you
所以要知道自己此时
are
此
not.
刻的角色
And
是
so
什
you
么
really need to know what
如果
your
你是
role is.
啊，一个团队的主管，
If
一个公
you
司的
are
老板，
the
一个家庭
leader
中
of
的
a
家长，
group and you
还
are
有学校
the
老师，
parent, you are the
这个时
teacher
候
of a
该你说
school,
话，
you
你
are
把
the
你的
manager
角
of
色
a
扮演
company.
好。
And
说
so
你
if
该
you are the
说话。
leader, then you should
那
say
你
the
是一个
words
普
of a
通一
leader.
员，
If you're
你
just
没有权利，
a team
没有
member,
责任，
and you
更
don't
没有
have
必
the
要
authority and you
去
don't have the
夺了老
responsibility
板的说
to
话权，
take
还有声
the
音。
right of a
我们可
leadership
以理解为，
and
你这是在
even
对所有
your
的员工献媚，
volume of your
是一个
you know
太监行为，
voice. You
其
should
实是一个
not be too loud.
非常负面的，或者是阴暗的心理。
Actually,
你不是在关心大众，就是
you're
在哗众取宠。
sometimes you say
这是
those
这个
words. It's a negative
如果你这样做，赶
mind,
快
even
改；
though
如果
it
不改，
you say
接
the
下来
words
就
sounds
没有
very
指望。
positive. You're
就是这样。
actually just trying to show off.
好，这个
You
问
really
题
need
应
to
该到
correct
此
that, because
圆满。
otherwise it will
感谢
affect your future.
下一个
Well,
问题
thank
是
you,
年轻人
Grandmaster.
的问题
So the next
他
question
问
is
师
also
傅
from a
怎
young
么样
people,
能更好地
and
管
he
理
asked
自己的时间？
how we can better manage
这个
our
是一个
time.
特别好的问题。
This is a
这个
very
年
good
轻
question.
啊，年轻
Well,
的好处就是你的
the good thing
3万
about
天你可
being
能花
young
了
is
2000
that
天了，
maybe
或者是5000
30,000
天了，
days
8000
you
天了，
only
还是
have
比较年轻嘛，
spent
你还有
maybe
人生足够
5,000
的时
days,
间
2,000
去
days,
感
or
受，
you know, you
去
still have
经历。
a lot of time to
但是你
experience
的弱
life.
点呢，就
But the
是
disadvantage
确实
is that
没有人生经验，
you
不知道
really
怎么
don't
做
have
事儿。
too much life experience. You don't know how to
那一开始
do
我听到这个
things.
问题的时候，
When I first hear
我的
this
第一感受是不回
question,
答。
my first feeling
我
is
觉得
like
这
I
个
don't want to
是
answer
人
this
之常
question
情的
because
事情，应该很容易。
it's very easy. It's for everyone.
现在
It
我在
should
想
be
呢，
very simple.
因为没有经验嘛，
But now
所以
I'm
不懂
thinking
嘛，所以
because you
才
don't
问我呀。
you don't have experience,
我
so
喝口
that's
水再回
why
答。
you want to ask
因为
me.
现在呢
Okay, let me drink some water.
网
And so Joy said, now it's the internet world and, computers, cell phones, everywhere. And so there's so much things online and there's so many information there, and that really affects their time. it can consume lots of their time, and so they really don't know how to manage their time. So this question becomes
那我来
even
讲一下这个问题
harder
哈
to manage time in this internet,
我接触面比较广
time. Well, Grandmaster said,
时间
I
的管理
actually have
我
met
遇到
many
一些年
people.
轻人
Let's talk about
就是遇
managing
到了一
time.
些
I've
读
met
书啊
some young people.
或者工作呀，或者
Some
爱
of them in
情当中
school,
一些打
some
击和障
are
碍之后，
in working, and some
就把
have
自己
had
呢
break up in
搬到
their
屋里
love,
去
and so they
连房门都不出。
they close them up in the
就
room.
这
They
个
don't
的
even go out of the
原因
room.
呢，我进行
The
分析的时候
reason, when I
因为在年轻人
think about
你
it
在
and
小时
analyze
候
the reason for young people
的
in your
上学时间， 就
childhood
是去不
when
去上
you
学，是
were
由
in
家长
school.
来决定，
Whether
对吧
you go to school or
早
not,
上
it's
上学是
decided
7
by
点
your
钟到了，
parents.
必须走，
And then your
是吧？你的
parents
时
would say,
间
"Oh,
是由
go
家
to
长。
school. It's
到了
already
学校里头
time."
呢，
And
有老
when
师
you go to school, it's your
老师说上课
teacher
了，哎
who
你
will
就来上
decide
课。所
your
以就是
time
由
in
家
school.
长和老师决
And
定了
so
我们的
your
时间，
parents and your
你自己不
teachers
用考虑。
will decide your time. You don't even need to think about it.
好不容易离
Finally,
开学校之后，
you have left the school,
有时候总想逃避这个现
and
实，
you
哈
always
因
want
为任何一种
to,
原因
you
逃
know,
避这个现实。
get away
当
from
逃避了，比如说我
the
不去读书
reality.
逃避了学校，
You don't
还
need
有
to
呢
go to
逃避了工
school.
作之后，
And if you
你就没有
also
时间
don't
上的
work,
任何的责任和
then
压力
you
感。
don't have any
吧？
pressure
你不用
about, no
早点起
restriction for
床，
time. You don't
因为
need to
你
get
没有
up
上班，
early because you don't go to work,
你也不
say
用
for
早点
example.
睡觉上
And you
床，
don't need to go to
因为
bed
你
or
不需要
sleep
早起，
early because you don't need to get up
对不对？
early,
嗯，
right?
哎，就是变成一种
So
叫很自在、自由的一个时
it
间的一
becomes
种，
a
应该叫没有
very,
时间
it's
意识的一
like
种生活状态，
it's a lifestyle without even the concept of time. You don't
甚
have
至
any
是
limits
到
that,
慵懒，
or
到
restrictions for how
堕
to
落，
use
到颓
time.
废。
And then you would just be so lazy
那个
and
嗓子有点紧哈，
sorry, I have some sore throat.
好，大家放心，我没有感冒。
But
就
don't
是
worry,
看见
I
你们
don't
这
have
么
any
紧张
cold.
啊，所以我也
Maybe
不
when
好
I
嗓。
see you, I'm too nervous.
那这个，我们从被管理的这个生活到时间状态，其实我们被管理的一个所有的被管理的状态
So
之中，都离
when
不开时
we
间上的
have
管理。
we were in a state
对吧？
of being,
说
you
7
know,
点钟还不起
controlled.
床，马上上
Yeah,
课去，
see,
要不
oh,
晚
it's
点。
already 7
还
a.m.
有
You need to
你
get
现
up
在
and
11
go to
点钟还
school.
没写完作业，
Oh, it's
明
already
天
11
老师会
p.m.
批你的。
If you can't
所以
can't
赶快
finish
写
your
完，早
homework,
点上床睡
you
觉，
know,
是吧？
your teacher would blame you tomorrow.
赶
So
快
quickly
好好工
finish
作，
your
因为6点
homework.
钟我们下班了。
对，
你看，
Or
都
maybe
是
if
在
you're
时
working,
间，
it's like,
就是被
oh,
他
it's
人管理
almost
中，
6
你
p.m.
只要
You
去
need
读
to
书，
finish
只
work
要
before
去工
6.
作。
And if you go to
就会被
school
这样
or
的
go to
管理。
work, then you will be
当有一天我不读书了，
under this like
我
management.
不工作了，
If you're not
这个时
working,
间上
if you're
就没
not
人管了嘛。
studying, then you
我
not
们
go
自
to
己怎么
school,
管？
then your time has no
所以
one
年轻人怎么
to
管理自己的时间呢？
control your time or manage your time. So for young people, how to manage our own
所以
time.
刚才我的总结是：一旦没有了学校的问题，没有了工作的问题，
If you don't
当然不用在乎
need
时
to
间
go
了，
to
对不对？
school or
终于
work,
轻
of
松了，
course you don't have
终
to
于
worry about
终于
time.
摆脱了时
Finally,
间对我的约
you're
束了，
free and you
对
don't
不对？
you're free from
所以
the
你看，年轻
restriction
人
of
有很
time.
多是，
And so
如果今天放假是周六，
a lot of young people
早
say, for
晨又没有
example,
补习，
today
对
is
不对？
Saturday, it's a
你
day
睡到
off
几点
and
钟
you
呢？
don't need to
就在
go
你年轻的时候，
to learn
周六
something. Well, Joyce,
上午10
when you
点
were
11
young,
点
你说
when
好
would
孩
you
子，
sleep until, well, 10 a.m., 11
我
a.m.?
听了
And
很多人
Grandmaster
是
said, you're a
睡到
good
中
girl.
午1点钟，
I heard some people will sleep until
说
like
这个太
1
阳偏
p.m.
西才能起床，
After,
哎，
like, they
因为
would
周
sleep
六的时候
until
睡得会晚
afternoon
一点。还有呢，他经过一
because it's a
个一
weekend.
周的这个
And
读
also
书，
because
再加上学校运动，是吧？
for the whole week,
哎，读书本
because
身也
of
是
their
其实挺累
study,
的。
because of some,
大家也要承
you know,
认，
exercise. You know,
我个人很承认，
actually,
读书
we should
脑力
admit,
劳动
I do
并不
admit
清闲，
that
一样累，和体
studying,
力劳动一
you
样
know,
的累。
using our
它只是
brain
不是那么
is
直白
just
的
as
累。所以
tiring
你读完
as
书之后
using
感觉
labor,
身
you
体
know,
没力
our
气，
physical
是累的。
body. And so after you
所以这
study, you
个
also feel
工作学
tired.
习了一
And
周
so
之后，
after they have
身体
worked
累
or
了，
studied for a
年轻
whole
正在
week,
发育
they
成长的
feel
时期嘛， 有睡
tired.
睡觉容
And
易
young
长个，
people,
就是这样，
because they're
很
still
热的，
growing,
促
and if
进
they
发育，
sleep more, it
因为你
helps
的
them
身体
to
得到一
grow
个
better.
很好的一个休
And
息的
so
时间。
because our body
所以
then
周六
can
周日
have
是
a
个
better
比较可
sleep.
以。
So
但是如果长期的如此，
on
比如说
weekends,
我
if
现在
we
初一没有工作
sleep
了，啊，
in,
不用上学了，
it's
是吧？
fine. But
整个
if it's a
可能100
long-term
天或者
thing,
1-2
say for
年，
example for 100
所以这个
days
状
or
态的时
even
候，
1 year or
我
2
们
years you are in
看
this
看结
state,
果怎么样。
then see what will happen.
这样的话呢，我每天我都是1点
Say
之
for
后，
example,
中午
every
1点以
day
后起床。
you get up at
这还是早
like
的呀。
after 1 p.m. and that's
永远没
even
有早饭
already
这个概念。
early.
对，那
And
你的
so
早
Joy
饭
said
就
you
是
never have breakfast. Well, your
在
breakfast is
香港
already
有些
lunch.
人是这样，
In Hong Kong,
有
there are
些
people like
太太
this.
不用上班的，
Some, you
不
know,
用
some
上班，他就
ladies
是
they don't
晚
need to
饭。
go to work, so they
所
have
以
a
有很多
very
是送孩子去
they
上
don't
学，
have
早
a
晨起来一
schedule,
下之后，
and
继
so
续钻被
they
窝睡
probably
觉。
will go
哎，
get up early to
可到了
send kids
12
to
点
school,
1 点
and
了，
then they
起来
will
喝早茶。
sleep
广东人
again,
喝
and
早茶的
you
习
know
惯，
at
早茶
lunchtime
就是
they
我们的
will
午
go
餐
for
时
some
间，
dim
人
sum,
喝早茶去了
and so
啊，喝到那个茶喝到什么程度？喝到喝
and
不
then
下
they
去为
will
止。
just
5、
have
6
dim
点钟
sum
了，
and
到
drink
下
the
午6
tea
点钟
until they cannot
啊，
take
又得
anymore.
找朋
It's
友聊
already
天
like
打麻
5
将
p.m. or 6 p.m. and then they will
对，
go find
他
some
是
friends
进入
to
一种叫
play
做紊乱的
mahjong,
状态。
and so their life
哎，
is chaos.
那我来简短的来回答这个问题啊，
I
就是
just
这种
answer
状
this
态
question
其
very
实
briefly.
会觉得人
So
生没
this
有意义的
state
状
will
态，
make you feel like
因为
life
你一
is
旦不工
meaningless.
作了，一旦
Because
不
if
读
you
书
don't
了，
work and you
你
don't
会出现了
study,
这个紊
you
乱。
would
我们第一个
feel
紊
that
乱的
it
明
is
显的标识就是
kind of
没有了时间上的约
chaotic
束，或
because
失去了时间
there's
上的约束。
no
以为没有
restrictions
压
on
力的
any
人生是
time.
更好的。
You think
你
that
要
life
首先
without
知道，
pressure
没
is
有压力
better,
的人生
but
是容易发
actually,
胖的。你乐意吗？
well, first of all,
你一
a
旦感觉
life
时
without
间上没有约
pressure
束之后，
will make
你的
you
你的身材哈，
gain
慢慢
weight.
变成毛毛虫
You。see,
不是一
your
节
没有约束。
那
your
你是跟
body
人
will
拍那个
become
广告人一样，你一
like a
看全
worm
是肥
or
肉，因为你没有时间约束了。当人有约束，它会出现被约束
like a
和自
caterpillar.
我约束、自我管理的
And
一种
so
叫做
if
理智
you
状态。
control your
所以一旦失去
you know,
了这
manage
个
your
时间的约束
time,
之后，会
then
出现一种
it's
叫
a
做失
logical
智
way.
状态。
And so if you lose
就是
that
你的
control
智
of
慧
your
都开始没
time,
有了。
you would even
要么
lose
什么
your
叫智慧呢？
intelligence or even
是
wisdom. What is
还有什么叫没智慧呢？
wisdom? What is
所以当
like
出现
life
这种
without
失智状态
wisdom?
之后，出现了这样子，
So
是该睡时
it
不
it
睡，
means that when you are supposed
该
you're
起
you're
床时
supposed
不
to
起，
sleep, then you don't want to sleep.
该做
When you're
事时
supposed
不
to get
做
up, you don't want to get up. When
啊，
you're supposed to
这
do
个该
something, you
用
don't
功
want to
时
do
不
it.
用，
And when
啊，
you should work hard, you don't
这
want
跟
to
在
work
上
hard.
该
So
吃饭
Joyce
都
help
不
me.
吃。
该吃饭时不
When
吃，
you
就是
need
这
to
样子。
eat, then you don't want to
对，
eat.
就是不，但是这个时候就不该做的都做，不
But
该吃的都
whatever
吃。
you're not supposed to do,
睡
then
是
you
睡
want
觉。
to do. So
比如
when
说
you're
白
not
天在家
supposed
工
to
作，那
sleep,
他是白
then
天
you
睡觉，
sleep. So say
是
other
吧？
people are
晚上
working
应
in
该
the
睡觉，
daytime and you're
结果他
sleeping.
晚上起来
But
玩，
nighttime, you're supposed
啊，
to
因为
sleep,
你没
but
有这个
then
时
you
间
get
的约
up
束，
and play.
所以就
So
会
because
颠
there's
倒
no
阴阳 啊，
you know, that
整个你的
control
从
of the
心理
time,
上
and so
到
yin
生
and
理
yang
上
is completely
是处于
upside
一种
down
叫做
from your body
失
and
去
your
平
mind
衡的
is
状态。
completely out of balance.
这种状态
And this
即是
state
颓废。
is a kind of what
真
we
正处
call
于这个状态的最大的原因，
decadence,
是吧？我相信我的网
deteriorate.
友正在问，这为什么会进入这个状态呢？
So, how
非
come
常简单，
decadent life? Yeah.
他没有自己
Why
设
did
定的
you
人
go
生目
to
标。
that kind of state? It's
我在
because
新
you
加
don't
坡
have
也
a
接触过
goal.
2个孩子，属
In
于这个状态。
Singapore, I
但是
met
他好了，
two
去工作
kids.
了。
They were in this state, but now
那
they
他
are
不是
fine.
没有
They're
目
now
标。
starting to go to work.
那比如说一个大学生刚刚
Say,
毕
for
业，
example, a
说有目标
university
啊，
graduate.
有
He
目标
said,
之
"Oh,
后
I
进入
have
这个状
a
态
goal."
之后，关在家里
But
不出
then
门了。
they enter into this state and they just
那
stay
有目
home
标
and
怎么
don't
进入
go
这个状
out.
态呢？
But
他
how come they have
大
a
学
goal
毕
and they
业
still enter into this state?
到了公司打
After
工半年之后，
after
遇
this
到了
person
他自己
graduate
觉得
from university
人
for
生
half
一
a
大障
year
碍。
and he
他所做的事儿被老板
started to
全
work
部否认， 并且开除。
But he felt
是这样。
that he's completely
他觉得，
denied
这
because
没法
whatever
过
he
这日子，
said,
没
whatever
法
he
活了。
did was
受到了
always
原来我的理
denied by
想
the boss, and
是实
so
现不了的。
he thought
人
that,
生怎么这
oh
么黑暗
no,
呢？
life
因
is
为
so
人生第一次
dark.
打击嘛，
This is a setback
他
for
会
him.
他会用
And
以
so
点
he
代
felt
全，
like,
他觉得这一个对他来说
oh,
是黑暗
this
点，
is
他觉得
is
全
just
世界都是
a
黑暗的。
small dark point, but he thought that the
那
whole
父母
world
亲
is
又有
dark.
钱花，
And his
住着大
parents
别
has
墅，
money. He
是吧？
has
每个
like
月
a
很多的
big
收入。
house, and
他随便拿
they're
父母亲一张卡之后，
his
就在屋
parents
里
have
打
lots
游
of
戏，天
income,
天玩。
and so just use a small
这个时候
amount
就
of the
是
money. He
做不
can
该做
already
的、看
play
不该
games
看
at
的、
home,
花不
and
该
so
花的
he's
钱等等
using
的，这
like
是啃老。
doing things that he's
哎
not supposed
所
to
以
do and
他从
watch
有
things
人
that
生
he's
目标
not supposed to
遇
watch.
到一
And
点小小的
so
挫折，
he
失去了人生目
started
标。
from having
我们
a
说这个叫
life
没有
goal,
定力。
but then he
这
had
个
some
目标没有
setback,
和
and
你
then
的
he
人
lost
生
his
捆绑
life
在一
goal.
起。
That means that he has no fortitude. This
我希
goal
望的是人
hasn't
生目
been
标真正就是
tied
说
up
我
with
一定
his
去
whole
做
life.
成这件事。
If you have a life goal, you should be
这种
determined
做法不
to
一定是一
achieve
种
the
最
goal.
伟大的做法，
It's
但
not
是会
necessarily
让几
to
乎所有的
be
人
the
能
greatest
在
way
让
to
自
live
己
a
的人
life,
生
but at
也
least
觉得有
it will
动力，
make everyone
会精
feel
彩，
more
会欢喜，
motivations in life,
啊，
and you feel
会乐意去
life
接
is
受，
more
还有不怕
wonderful,
困难。
and you're ready to
所以像
accept, and
我
you're
说
not
新加坡这
afraid
个
of
男
the
孩儿这个状
difficulties.
态呢，
So
是他
that
这个人
young
生的
man
目
in
标
Singapore
不
is
够那
because
么
his life goal
不扎实、不确定，
is not very
才会
solid,
出现这个现象。
and
啊，
that's
所以
why
但是后来
he,
我们这
you
个扶
know,
持一下之后，他还是出来工作了，
he
重新再
well
设立
went
目
back
标，
home
就
very
又找
soon.
回了
But
自
with
己，
our help, he
又好好工
finally
作了。
you
就
know,
是
reset
在
the
家里
goal
整
and
整半
finally
年
come
呢，
out
把
to
父
work
母亲给
again.
逼坏了，
But he
逼着
stayed
辞去
home
回
for
来。
6 months, and his parents were
所以
worried
这种
almost to
状况
death.
都是
And
人生没目标
so
造成的。
this is
没
all
有目标
because
的
he
人
doesn't
生是
have
因
a
为没
life
有自己的
goal.
特长，
And
或者
sometimes
受
without
到
a
一
life
点
goal
点
is
挫折。
because they don't
尤其
have
是女
a
孩子说依
specialty.
恋爱，
And
没
so
恋过爱，一
especially
恋
a
爱之
girl,
后家伙太投入
when
了，
they are
觉
falling
得
in
说
love, they're too
他
attached
就是
to
我的
it,
生命。
and he
结
felt,
果
and
人
she
家这个
feels
他
like
一跑了
the
之
young
后，
man
他觉得自己
is
没命了，
her whole life. And
那
if the
所以
young
就
man
失
left
去了
her,
正常的生
she
活
felt
方式。
like
啊，
she
所以
couldn't
呢，希望大
survive.
家要有自己
And
的人
so
生
I
目标。
hope that you have
还
your
有
own
你
life
自己
goal.
的人生目
And
标，不要建立在
your
别人的
own,
生命之
your
上。
life goal should not be
不依
um,
附于别人。
attached
比如
to
说我爸爸
somebody
他们能
else.
干，
Say, for
我爸爸
example, your
活着才让我
father
活着，
works very hard.
所以我
And
爸爸存在我就存在。如果你爸爸
if
病倒
you
了呢，
attach
你爸爸
your
去世
life
了
to
呢，
your
你也没法活
father,
了，对不
what
对？
if your father
所以
passed
不
away?
管
What if your
父
father
母
gets
对你
sick?
多
You
么
know,
好，
so
还有
even if
爱
your
你的人多么
parents
爱你，请你记住，你
treat
自
you
己的
well
目
and
标
love you
就
so
是你
well,
自己的。
and even if
你自己
your
有一个人生目
you know
标，
your lover loves
你
you a
才会
lot, but you still need to
有
have your
一切的
own
美好，
life purpose
所以才会
and
有
goal.
时间的把握，
And so
行为的把握，语
then
言
you
的把
can
握，行
manage
动力的
your
把握，
your
而且
language, your
这
actions,
永无
and
休止的动力
you will have
才会产生。
endless
啊，
motivations.
所以自己的人生目
So
标是
you
别
need
人
to
没
have
法
your
代替。
own life goal and
所
not
以不要把自己的人生的希望
depending on others.
和目
So
标
don't put
寄托
your
在
life
他人
goal
身上，
and
无
hope
论你多么爱他，
on
那都是错的。
anybody, even if you love
问
this
题我就
person
回答到
very
这里。
much. Okay, so
师傅，
that's
我
my
听到就
answer to
最有
this
启发的
question.
就是说，
Well,
人
thank you,
有这个人生的
Grandmaster. I
目标
really,
你才能够有动力，你
yeah,
才能够管好
what
自己的
really
时间。
awakens me
对。
more is that you need
我
to
们说禅
have
修通
a
常
life goal so
永
that
远我
then
学会
you
了问
will have
为
motivation
什
so
么？
that you
凭什
can
么？
manage your time well.
就是凭
Well,
什么我起床？一大早起床，
say, for
凭
example,
什么
why
我
should I
一大
get
早
up
来背
early?
书？
Uh,
凭什么
why
我去
should
帮
I,
人，对不对？
recite
总
this
要有个
text?
解
Why
释
should I help others?
能
You
解
need
释
to
透
have
了
an
你才会有动
explanation.
力。
Only when
就
you
习惯于
know
我也是
the
习惯于
reason
这
for
样思
doing
维。
that,
感恩
then
师
you
傅。
will have motivations.
好的，
So
下面
I
还有一个
also
问题哈，
like
就
to
是我
think
们那
this
个
way.
大
There's
学生
another
他在
question
实
is
习阶
about
段就快毕业了，结果他
university
发现他这
student.
个在
Um,
实习中他发现那个
she's
工作
doing
好像跟
co-op
他以
and
前
is
想象的不
almost
是那么一样，
going to
就感
graduate,
受
but
到
she
有点
felt
受
like
挫折、受
now
压
the
力。
work
他
is
想问
not
师傅
what
的是呢，
he or
怎
she
么
is
分辨两
imagined.
种情况？
And so
一种情况就是
he'd
说，
like to
哎，
know
我现在面对这个压力，我是要坚持，
well,
然后呢，
these are
有定
he
力，
met
然
with
后
some
熬过这一
difficulties.
段就
Is
好了，
this
还是说呢，
adversity
我这
is
种
a
情
good
况跟我当时的
adversity
环
that
境
will
确实不
actually
是
stimulate himself to grow better, or if it is, a situation that I actually should change an environment or change to another job. So he really wants to know whether this adversity, he should just overcome the difficulty and be persevere, or he should actually change to a different environment. So Grandmaster asked her to answer, to repeat the question. So how do we distinguish that this adversity is a good thing for us, so that we can, as long as we persevere, we could, go and pass this, and we will grow even more? Or how should we distinguish that this is actually something not suitable for me? I should actually avoid this situation. And so Grandmaster said, okay, now I understand the question.
你现在处于的环境，我的回
So
答是我不知道。
your environment or
因为
your
你的环境
situation
不
that
是
you're
我的环
in,
境，
I
我
don't
们
know
彼
what
此不能替
situation you
代。
are in. I
就是但是
don't
给
know
的
what
建议来
situation
说
you
的
are
话，
in, but just for if you want to
我
hear
们
my
年轻人，甚至
opinion,
很多已
for
经
young
并不年
people
轻的，
or for some
那有些
others
做
who
事方
are
法就是
not
这样，
very young
习惯性
anymore,
的是
a
逃
lot
避。
of times you want to
我说这个
avoid
你听的是不太
difficulties.
舒服。
You probably don't want to hear this because
这个
it's
我
not
年轻的时候
pleasant.
也是逃避的。
Well,
当
when
你
I
有
was
压
young,
力，
I was like
这个
that
压力
too.
来自于
When
很多
there's
时候是
pressure,
自己不会做 事。
a lot of times the
是吧？
pressure is
我
because
们刚才比如
we
说在这个
didn't
餐
do
馆，
things well. Say, for
那你
example,
现
in
在
a
我不会做拉面不
restaurant,
会，
you
炒
don't
菜
know
不
how to
会。
make that
你
you know
想想，
poor
这
noodle,
个时候厨房
and
的
you
人
don't
喜
know
欢
how
你
to
吗？
do
老
stir
板喜
fry.
欢你吗？
So how
肯
can
定不喜
those
欢，对不对？
chef and your
我有压
boss
力，
like you?
好吧，
Of course, you feel the
因为每个
pressure.
人都不给
You
我好
wanna
脸色，
you
每个
wanna
人都会讽刺
fled.
我，对吧？你不是说你是厨师吗？
You wanna
啊，你还是
flee,
特级
and
厨师
and
啊，
you said
连
you're
小白菜
a
都不会炒，
a
你炒
a
的是啥呀？
chef,
这是人能
and
吃的吗？
you know
等
you
等
don't
很多
even
的
know
话，
how
你真
to
的
stir fry
很难
the
堪，对不对？
vegetables, and so
好，
sometimes make
你
you
看
very
有压力，
embarrassed,
好，
and so you feel the pressure and you
跑能
want
解决
to
问题吗？
leave. But
当然，跑
would
是
this
是
solve the problem?
回避了这个尴尬的、有
Of
压力的
course,
场
when
面，对
you
不对？
leave, you
那你
you
总要
do avoid the
工作，去生活
embarrassing
吧。
situation, but you still need
你到
to
下一个餐
make a
馆吧，
living, right? You go to the
你
next
不是还不
restaurant.
会炒菜吗？
If you don't know how to
你
stir
要想
fry,
挣点高的工
and
资，一
if
定
you
要有技
want
术含量的，
to
对不对？ 所以
have
你既
more
不是
income,
厨
you
师，
do need some
那你还
techniques or
想以厨师
specialties.
的名字来应
If
聘工
you
作，
are actually you
这
don't
个压力
have
是
the
对
the
的。
skills of a chef, but you still want to
那
be a
我们年
chef,
轻的时
then
候
of
几
course
乎
you
都
will
用
have
过这个
pressure.
方法，有
When we
压
were
力就
young,
跑，有压力就跑，
we
最后
always
跑来
are
跑
we
去
were
发
like
现
that
跑了好
too,
几
right?
年，
So we would try to
不但
leave
没有存
and
款，
and
还欠着钱，
flee.
就再跑下去，人都老了，没人要了，怎么
But
办？对，
um,
不能跑。
you
嗯，
you
是
you just
克
get
烦
older
恼，
and
是
older.
克
You
己。
always
你应
encounter
该
those
去觉
difficulties.
悟
So what should we do?
啊，你为什么有这个压力
We
呢？
need to solve the
而你
problem.
工作做得好，
Why
你还
you
有
have
压力
this
吗？
pressure? If you do the work well, how can you have the pressure?
有些人在职
Some
场上说我不
people,
快乐，
when
不
they're
快乐原因是我
working,
不
they
会
say
为
they're
人，
not happy
这是
because
你在
they
找理由。
are not. They say
很多
it's
不快乐
because
的
they're
原因
not
是
very
你
good
的
at
工作
dealing with
本质没
people.
做好。比
But
如说你
that's
是设
just
计
your
师，对不对？
reasons. A lot of
但
times
是
it's
你设计
because
的
you
东西，
haven't
老
done the
板都
work
是
well.
很烦、很讨厌，没开除你就
If
不错了。
the boss
但是你会
haven't
有压力，
dismissed
你
you,
会
it's
烦，
already a fortune for you.
对不
But
对？
then you still
但
feel
是
the
给朋
pressure,
友和
right?
家人说的时候，
But when you're talking to your friends and family,
可能给
you
家人还能说实话，
sometimes
给朋
you
友不能说
tell
实
the
话呀。
truth to your family,
说
but you
说
don't
老
want
板
to
脾气
tell
不
that
好，
to your
说
friends.
老
You
板爱
usually
发
say,
火爱骂
"Oh,"
人，
you just say, "My boss
是
is
吧？
just
整天骂人老
so
板，他是老
has
板吗？他怎么
anger
对朋友
problem
呢？
or just
因
always
为他和
have
客户很会说
tantrums."
话的，
And
和好的员工非常会说话，
well,
很温
actually, your
柔。
boss
但
is
是他们
very
跟你说话，
gentle
一见面就
to
瞪眼，
very good
见
employees.
面就骂
Why
人
he
的，
always
就
scold
说你
you?
工作没做好。
It's probably because you
那我
didn't
们
do
怎
the
么
work
办？
well.
我们
So
要
what
混
should
饭
we
吃啊，
do? We need to
所以
make a
法律的
living,
本事要
right?
好，
So you need
对不对？
to
你想避
train
开这个
yourself
尴
and
尬，
really
那
have good
应该
skills. You
解
want
决
to
根本问
avoid
题。
that
如
embarrassment.
果
You
是厨
need
师，请你
to
真正
you
练
know,
就厨
heal
师
the
的本
root.
领，
If you want to
去
be a
学
chef,
习，
you really
不要
need to
应聘厨
learn the
师，先
skills.
去到厨
Don't
师学
just
校
go
学习
to
做厨师，对
uh,
不对？
to
不是
try
这样
to
子。
be
哎，
employed
你不要是你
as
不
a
会
chef.
做
You
或者
need
只
to
会
go
一
to a
点儿你就
school
应
to
聘。
learn the
比如
skills
说我连
first.
不是厨师的级别，我只是
If
学了
you're
一点
not
点炒菜的最初级
a
的这种
chef
本事，
yet, you just
你就
learned
不
a
要
little
应聘那
bit
个高级的
skill
厨师，是
about
吧？
you know
你就
cooking.
扎扎实实
So
从
you
初级的
should
开始练
not
习，
try
是
to
吧？从一个这
be
个辅助的
employed
这种小公
as
式的这个
the
工作
main
开始做
chef,
起
but maybe
啊，认
just
真的学习，认真
assistant
的
to the
请教，
chef. And
认
so
真的
you
好好
should
拜师，
learn well.
让
You
自己成为
should
一个名副其实的 厨师，
you should
老板就不
practice
会骂
and
你，大家
learn,
都欢迎
and
你。
so that
因为
you
这个是
grow
凭
your
本事吃
skills
饭的
and
地方。
finally you can be a good
当今
chef.
的社会，
And because
像在我们在
today's
35年前
society,
的
you
中国，
need
很多
your
人都是说找个工
real
作就铁饭碗，对不
ability
对？
to do
必
some
须找
to
到
to
政
find
府
a
工
good
作更是
job.
金
Well,
饭碗。我不干活，我
in
天天
the
在那给
past
自己
in
织的毛衣
China,，
我同样我
you
能够
know,
赚很多钱。
they
就这个时代
they
已经
don't
过
do
去
a
了。
good job, and
今
then
天给
they
政府
if
打
they
工，你
find
都
a
磨
good
不了员工，
position,
对不对？
even
你
if
只
they
要
don't
认
do
真
a
工
good
作才
job,
能
they
吃
can
饭。
make a living. But now you
何况
cannot.
现在
You
全世界几乎
really
都
need
是私
to
营
be
企
able to
业，
do a good job
那私营
to
老板怎么会
yeah.
养你一个不干活的
And
废
a lot
物，
of
天天
times,
拿着这个钱？
um,
谁家老板有这么多
it's a
钱让你花
private
呢？
company, so I
所以要
don't
凭真
think
本
those
事，
employers
这个世界才
would
是公
pay
平的，
you your
对不对？
salary for
所
not
以不
doing
要
a good
有
job
点压力就跑，
and or
要
not
学会
doing
解
the
决这个
job at
压
all.
力。
And
那这个
so
压力
when
如果
there's
是自己
pressure,
的能力
don't
问
just
题，
go
所
away.
以你去改善你的能力，
You should
完善你的
find the
能力。
root.
那么
And
你
so
的
if
人
it
际
is
关系就
because
好，
of
这个压
your
力不就解决了？
lack of ability, then you should learn, you should practice, and don't only look at, so Joyce is saying, don't just look at the external environment, whether you, yeah, you should
人
really
生真有
look
压
at
力反而是好
yourself.
事。
And Grandmaster
是吧？
said
没有压
sometimes
力
the
就是坏
pressure
事。
is actually a
我们
good
都会
thing for our life.
失
If
去
you don't
平
have
衡，
any
失去
pressure,
一
it's
切
not
对
really
自我
good.
正常的控制力。
Then you
失去
will
成长的机
lose
会。
your
对，
balance, and you
所以有
don't,
压
you
力，
will
你有
all
没有把
even
这压力
lose
变成自己学习的动
the
力？
opportunity. So
对吧？
Grandmaster said,
你不要把压
have
力
you
变成
turned the
推费。
pressure, become
你
turn the
本来
pressure
技术就
into
不好，
the
你有压
motivation
力，
to
老板一
learn,
骂你好了，我
and
走了，
say
我回家关在家里去。
you
除
are
非
not
你爸有
skillful
很
to
多
do
钱
the
让你
good
在那花，
job,
对不对？
and
如果没有一个负
your
责的老
boss
板，
scolds
你
you
关到
and
屋
you
里
just
去，
go home,
其
and
实你没有屋可
unless you have
关
a lot of
你
money
就交
or
不起
your
那个
parents
房
have a
租，
lot of money to give you,
对不对？ 你把
because
自己关在婴儿
otherwise,
的凳
if
子
you
上，
just stay home,
但
how
是婴
can
儿的
you
凳子也是有人管的，
survive? Well, maybe you
每个
can
国家
only
的公
sit
园
on the
凳子都是有
chairs
人管，是吧？
in the
如果
park.
管理者不
Well,
管了之
actually,
后，那些流浪汉也来管
there
你。
other
我告诉你，
people
这个
will
我已经睡了一
control,
年了，结果
and
你来
maybe
破蛋，
even
要把你赶走
yeah.
的，对不对？
Sometimes
对，
homeless
是这样
people
的。
would even come
所以
to bother
不
you
要学
because
会
he would
逃
say
避，
that this chair is
反而要
his.
学会面对
Uh,
你现在的烦恼，
so
去
don't
解
try
决
to
好这个
avoid
烦恼。
it.
这个烦恼就没有了。
When there's
要调整
afflictions
自己，
here,
不
you
要
should
学会去
try
怪别
to
人。
turn that
我们
pressure
学
into
禅修的人
motivation
啊，
and try
就
to
是往往
find
我们所学
a
到的
way
东
to
西，
solve the
我
problem.
自己也是这么做。
A lot of times,
不要一有烦恼都怪别人，
don't be like,
先检
okay,
讨自己，
you
我
have
哪些事情没有做好。
afflictions
比
and
如
you
说我的
always
事情做得不
complain.
错，是不
You
是我说
should
话太难
look,
听了？是不是我说
you
话太好
should,
听，可是我不会做事儿。
yeah, look
你哪
back on
件事做不好
yourself.
都会惹
Maybe
烦。
is it because you didn't
所以
do
要
the work
去
well
完
or
善自
you
己，
didn't say something right?
不要
So
去
if
逃
you
避。
didn't do well
当
in
学着
something,
逃
then
避，一
you
旦
should
习惯了之
correct
后，
it. You should try to do
你想，
better.
如果你的
And
家庭
don't
生活，你
always
跟
have
人
the
结了婚
habit
了，
of
一有压力，
avoiding.
我走了，那
And
么离婚了嘛，
well, say for example,
对不
if
对？
you have a
如果
marriage
你
and
已经
if
是个
you
孩子的
had
爸
some
是妈了，
troubles or I mean
那孩子
afflictions
立
in the
刻是孤儿，
marriage and you
立刻
always
是孤儿。
think,
哪
oh
有你这
no,
样的家长？你
you're
把我
just
们要
leave,
不要了，对不
then
对？
that will cause a
所以
divorce.
当
And
逃
if you
避
have a child
一旦成了
and
习惯，
you think that
哦，
it's too hard to bring
那
up the child
和
and
你
you
一起的
leave,
人可
then
就
the
受苦
child
了，
will become
关
an
键你自
orphan.
己也会受苦，
And
自己可以一事
so
无成。
我一事无成，没有成
so
就，
it would be a
啊，
bad thing for
所以
yourself and for others.
不要
You
学着逃
will
避，
not be
要
able
学
to
着
achieve
正
anything.
常正面的
And
去真实的解决问
so
题，
we need
啊，
to
这是唯一的出路。
face the problem
嗯
and try to solve the
还有一个
problem.
年轻人一个情感上的问题。
嗯，
Okay, thank you,
这样
Grandmaster.
然后呢，他跟师
This
傅
is
说，
another
怎么
question
样
from
才
a
能
young
不
people.
不
So
想着
he or
对方，
she
不
had
老
a
是去
breakup
想
in
原
a
来的这个恋
relationship,
人，
and so
怎么样才
he's
能
asking
不让
how
失恋影
can
响自己正
he,
常的生活？
you know,
这个我
stop
没有，
missing
我没有什么经
the
验啊。
previous lover
那我
and
记得上
so
次
that
觉
it
真我跟你
won't,
聊天
the
的时候，
breakup
你告
won't
诉我一个方
affect
法。
his
我就找
life?
多找第二个。
Well,
对，
Grandmaster said,
觉真
I
一
don't
直
have
他就不是
experience.
死在一个
And
炕
so
上的，是吧？他
Well,
换任何地方都
Joyce,
能上吊。所以
Grandmaster said,
他
well,
就
you
说，
should be like
我
Joyce.
比如说我先和 A
You just
交
change
朋友，
another
结果
partner
A
or
这个
change
男朋
another
友
lover.
好
Say, for
了，
example, you
哎，
had a
但是我
boyfriend
心中还
before,
想他
but
呀，
then this
人家不爱
boyfriend
我，但
left.
是我很
But
贱，我
you
还
know,
总惦记着对方，
he
怎么办呢？
doesn't love
我
you
找个
anymore,
B，
but you
找个第二
still
号，那
love
第二号没
him.
那么好，
What
再
should
找
you
个第
do?
三号。
Then
我
go
说 A、B、
find
C 到
another
C，
one.
让
And maybe
C
from A,
去代
you
替了
change to
A
B,
和 B
and maybe
啊，
if the
是不
B
是
is
啊？
not good
就
enough,
明天
go
会更好，
find
下一
C.
个会更好。
And so
对，
to
这个时
replace
候
the
你
previous
就把
one.
前面的给
And
忘了。
so that
所
will
以
help
这个
you
问
to
题一般
forget
都
the
是因为
previous
初
one.
恋的人，对不对？
This
觉真你说你中间谈了7、8个，其实你名字
Well
都记不得了，你只记得第一个和最后 后一个，对不
Master
对？
is joking.
就是
Well,
这样。
Joyce, if you have already had 7 or 8 boyfriends, then
人
you
有病
don't
嘛，还疗
probably
愈嘛。
even
对的，
remember
你可以
the names
用
of the
代替
previous
法。
boyfriend. So
其实我
tomorrow
记得
will
中
be
医中有
better.
一
Yeah.
种止痛的方法，
You know,
一个人的牙
TCMs
很痛，
has a
牙很痛，
painkiller
也没有药，也没
way,
有办
and
法
they。don't have, you
啊
know, they have a
最后
way
呢
to
拿
kill the
拿
pain.
棍子
They don't.
拿棍子打的屁股。
是找我师傅，
What should
哎
you
我师
do?
傅来说
They
过
don't
来，
have painkillers.
给
They
他手
don't
上这个
have
虎口穴，咔一
medications.
掐他痛坐，一下
And
就
so
跪下了。
my grandmaster, do you know what he did? He would just
他一会儿说牙还痛吗？不，我
you
手
know,
痛。对，
scratch that
也是代替法。
part of the palm. It's called, it's actually acupoint, and it's so painful. And so this number 2 pain will replace the first pain. And so if it's not still not painful enough on this, what we call in between your thumb and your index finger, and then the second pain, if it cannot replace the first pain, then find another one. Another pain. So, okay, this young man or woman, just find another lover, and gradually you will forget the first one. And so the next question, she asked, she heard that if they put fake flower in the house, it's not good. And so some people say that putting the fake flower in the house would attract, maybe some bad women there. And so, well, it depends on your habit. If people who really like to eat the internal organs of the animals, then they are not used to eat the chicken legs. So if you are a very elegant people, then you will not attract very bad women. It doesn't have anything to do with whether you put fresh flower or fake flower in your house. Because otherwise, those people who sell fake flowers will have big trouble. I think Li Jiacheng from Hong Kong, he started from selling those fake flowers, but he then became like now he's very, very wealthy, and he has a big family. Sometimes, it depends on your taste. And when you're trying to find boyfriend or girlfriend, how do you find them? If your boyfriend is introduced by another friend, then you can ask your friend about his background or maybe his family. But if you go and find a boyfriend in a nightclub or something, then then you don't know anything about him, and that's maybe very likely you'll find someone who's not good. So if you want to find a good partner or boyfriend or girlfriend, you should not go somewhere that you don't know him at all. If you have good taste, then you will only eat some good food, not those garbage food. And so if you are elegant people, you don't need to worry about whether you put fake flower or fresh flower at home. And so I guess this question is from a friend in Taiwan. I know in Taiwan, in Malaysia, and in some tropical countries, maybe Indonesia or Guangdong in China or Singapore or Hong Kong. So in this tropical area, because they have a lot of flowers and plants, almost every plant will have flowers. In the north, especially in the winter, how can they have flowers? But in the tropical area, they have even some trees have flowers. In some areas, every day, they need to change fresh flowers. But if you go to north part of China, what should you offer to Buddha? In southern part of the tropical area, they always say, every day when you offer flowers to Buddha, you need to use change fresh flowers. But in the North China, you only have maybe snowflakes, no flower at all in the winter. And so I don't think fake flower or those plastic flower actually are not So I think whether you have a good boyfriend or bad boyfriend or girlfriend, it depends on how you choose them. it also depends on your taste. Some people maybe just like that kind of people, even though that's not a good person. But some people just have the taste of liking those kind of people. They like these kind of people. Say, for example, some crocodiles will eat anything, so he doesn't have any taste. So for a human being, if you want to find boyfriend or girlfriend, it depends on your taste and your level. I don't think it has anything to do whether you put fresh flower in the house or plastic flower in the house. And so this is another question from a young people. So if they are scolded by their parents or their boss, then what should they do? What should they respond? Well, it depends on how old you are and how much money you have. If you have more money than your boss, then you can fight back. If you think you still need this job to make a living, then be more careful. Well, some people, they didn't do much good job, but their words actually brought a lot of trouble to them. Say, for example, this designer was not happy, and the designer said, "Oh, do you even know art?" And this designer is asking his boss or asking his client. Well, he's bringing trouble for him. Well, maybe he would think, okay, if you don't like my art, then I'll just go somewhere else. Well, okay, if you have that, ability, and you could just go, right? Yeah, you should say, so Joy said, yes, Master has already mentioned before, like we should say, sure, okay, fine, I'll do it. And yes, I'll do it. A lot of times, well, for me, if someone say no, or I try to understand the young people and try to persuade them. But, some people, when they come to me, they still say, oh, they don't say that Grandmaster tried to persuade me. They will say, oh, Grandmaster scolded me and blamed me. Well, I sometimes will tell you what this job is done well or not. I would just say, well, should we make this picture a little bigger? Maybe this character should be bigger. I only talk about these technical details. But those more negative people, when they go back to their office, they would tell their colleagues and say, oh, what's wrong with you? And he would say, oh, Grandmaster blamed me again. He would not say that he did something wrong. He would always say, Grandmaster blamed him. Well, if he thinks this way, can he be happy? I don't mind if he say me like that. So because he doesn't feel good, he wants to go. I would say, okay, it's up to you. Whenever you, you feel like you can come back. After a year, he would come back, and usually after a year he would come back and say, oh, Grandmaster, this is so good here, you never blame me. Because when he go out and go to another company, those bosses will really blame them. And because they are paying the salary to hire you. When I pay you this salary, if you're not doing the right work, then so you're even wasting my time, and let alone wasting the money. I'm trying to hire a professional, not just a student, right?
所以你怎么面对？
So what should you
这不
do?
用人教啊。
好，
You
老
don't
师
need
这个
to
已经
learn.
听到
Well,
了。
还有
I
问题吗？
I don't need
还
to
有
answer this
还有
question
这个也是
directly.
年轻人
Do you
的
understand?
他说
So
如果当自己
another
被误
question.
解而受到
You
委
said,
屈的
"Oh,
时候
if
该怎么面对？
if you're
被
wronged
误解了，
and
被误解。
then
嗯
yeah, misunderstood
其
and
实
be
人生
wronged,
当
and
中
so
有
what
很多时候
should
被
you
误解。
do?"
有时候我们
Well, actually, Grandmaster said in our life,
多数
a
的
lot
误
of
解
times
呢，
we can be
它是与你的
misunderstood.
沟
A lot
通
of the
的方法与
misunderstanding
程度有
is
关系。
because of
嗯，
the way
比如说
you
你同样都在做事，
communicate.
可
When,
是
say,
你
for
做这个
example,
事的
you're
时候没
doing
解
this,
释。
but when you're doing this, you
对吧？
didn't
还有很多
explain.
人，
And a lot
还
of
有很多
people
人被误解是
when
你做了你不
they
该做的事。
were, well, they were
我
misunderstood
现在
because they
突
did
然我就
something
想到
that
这
they
个假
should
设，
not do.
我们都在办公室工作，
Say, for example,
我
we're
们
working
前
in
后
the
左右
office
都有同事，对
and
不对？
we have colleagues all around
我
us.
给我自己的桌面上进行收
I
拾、打扫卫生，
cleaned only
我呢，
my table.
好心献个殷勤，给我
And
前后左右的同事都
I
来擦桌子、
also
收拾文件。
clean the
献殷勤。
table for
结
the
果
other
我
people.
后面同事
But
都给我
then
拍桌子。
one of
你
my
什么意思？你
colleagues
偷看我资料吗？
was very
你看我还有
unhappy.
个
He
文件
said,
找不到了，
"What do you
你给我弄
mean?
哪去了？
Where did you put my
当场骂你。
document?" And he
你觉
even
得
blame
我
you
冤
for
枉啊？
that,
你看被
and
误
you
解，
you feel like so
觉得你怎么
wronged.
评判这件事？
So Joyce,
还
what
是
would
他
you
他想去
comment
帮忙
on
的那个
this?
方式不
Well,
对。
maybe he tried to
我说
help,
的有点
but
难
it
听
was
哈，
in
你
the
吃
wrong
完饭
way.
擦嘴和剔牙是自己的事儿，
嗯，
你不要拿个牙签儿拿张纸替别人剔牙和擦嘴，好吧？
Well,
上厕所也是如此。
yeah,
别
so
人的桌
do
子
your
就是有
own
很多的
business.
行为是
Don't
不该你做的，你
touch
千
other
万别
people's.
做。
So if there's some
对不对？
work that
你
you
千万
should
别这么
not
做。
do, then
就是
don't
有
do
的时
it.
候是这个社会经验问题。
Sometimes it's
哎，
because
就是
of
你
lack
做了
of
不该你做的，
experience. You did something that is not
就会
supposed
受
to be
到
done
责
by
备，
yourself. Then
就会
you will
被
be
误解。
blamed and you will be
比如说，一位
misunderstood.
男律师
Say, for example,
见一个夫妇俩有问题给律师谈
male
话，这个男律师
lawyer
呢
to
专
meet
门
a
找这个年
couple.
轻漂亮太太说话，根
And
本
so
就不理
this
这个先
lawyer
生。
always
但
talked
是
to
之
the
前也并不认识
beautiful
他太太，
wife, but
那
not
你们
talk
觉
to
得
the
他这
husband.
样做
And before
那个
they,
场景
he
是不
doesn't
是
even
是否会尴
know
尬呢？
the
会呀
wife.
那
Well,
先生
what
就
would
会
you
想你有
think?
什么非分
Of
之想
course,
对，
yes, the
先生
husband
就说
would
下
think,
次回家
wow,
之后
why
找
should
咱
you
们
do
找
that?
另外一个律师，
对
Of
说这个
course,
律
this
师不好。
husband will
对
tell
已
the
经
wife
是一
that
种，
they want to
对吧？
find
对，
another
人家不想
lawyer.
给男巫
And
师
then
那
this
这个分
lawyer
寸呢，
will
律
lose this
师也得说，
business.
说先生木讷，
And
我一提问题，太太先回答，
well,
所以自然
the
我们就交
lawyer
流起
might
来。
think,
我们
oh,
可以这么
it's because
觉
the
得
the
情有可原
husband
嘛，因为
doesn't
有很多男人不吭
answer
声，
whenever
有的
I
人不吭
ask
声，
questions.
所以只有
Usually
太太
it's
在
the
那对
wife
话。
who
但是一旦
answers.
对多了之后，先生还吃醋还生气，
But
说
in,
拍桌子不
even
干，
so,
说这
the
律师不是
husband
好
will
人，
feel
另有图谋，
jealous
对不对？
or feel
那律师也
bad
冤
that
枉。
you only talk to the wife.
那
And
怎么
then
看待
the
这个事？
lawyer would feel,
是律师做的
wow,
不合
it's
适。
he's wronged or it's a
要么律师太
misunderstanding.
投入了，太投入
Maybe
这份
it's
工作
because
和学
the
问了，对吧？
lawyer is
还有一
too
个两
attached
个
to
人
the
都有问
work,
题。
or maybe both of them have problem.
那你作为先生，你为什么说我
So
就要观
as
察
the
这个律师？我在
husband,
观察，我在听，我在听。
okay,
还有
you're
习惯
listening,
上
you're
有问题都是
observing.
太太在回答，
Usually,
习惯于回答，
whenever
因为女人
there's a
嘴快。
question, then usually it's the
所以
wife who answers question because
习惯是这个
usually
样子。
ladies
完了之
are
后，男的
quicker
还受
in
不了。
answering. But
但
then
律师呢，也许太投入。
the husband
我说
cannot
我不
bear
管
it.
谁给我回答，回答了我了解问题，这是
Well,
我的
the
工作。
lawyer might think that,
但
oh,
律
I
师
don't
呢，
mind who
有缺
answers the
少了一
question. I
点
just
点
need an
社会
answer.
经验。
But this lawyer
哎，
is
他
a
两
little
口子
bit
来，
lack of
你是男律
life
师，你一定要
experience.
照顾这个
Well,
男的顾
see,
客的一
the
个
couple
心态，
come,
是不是啊？
this
眼
couple
神啊，感
comes
觉打
and
招
you
呼的
need
感
to
觉，哎，
at
都
least
根本
also
都顾
look
及到。
after
那个
both
这个
of
男
them.
顾客就不会
Either
生气，
look at both of them or talk to both of
是吧？你
them,
不要
at
对着这
least
个
to make the
人家两口子，你
husband
说太
also
太你长得
feel
很漂
looked
亮，
after.
你
Don't
皮肤太好
ever
了，这
say
都不
that,
行。
oh,
这个这可能没人
don't ever
教，
say to the wife
但
that,
是
oh,
呢，
you are
说
beautiful
到
or
这个误会
something.
的这个上头，我只是 是举例。
So we're just
就是有
talking
很多时候
about
就是人生
misunderstanding. A
年
lot of
龄
times
而
it's
产生的
because
这个经验。
of, you
因
know,
为痛苦、误
it-
会之
life
后总
experience.
结出来的经验，
it's because of,
所以我
you
们
know, yeah,
不要
more
做
experience because of getting
些不该做
older,
的事。
more experience, and then you
啊。
would have
不要
more
只面
life
对
experience. Maybe you
我
had
喝喝水，就这样。
嗯，
misunderstanding before, so you know that next time you cannot do
那
that.
我自己也是，因为人生之中这
Well,
个
Joyce said,
被 容易
Yeah.
被误会的时候就是挺多的。
I
我自己是
actually
这么想，
feel,
是不是有一
yeah,
种
it's
但是有
very
一种情
easy
况，一
to
种
be
情况就是
misunderstood.
跟
Well,
跟
in
产生误会
two
的这个人的
circumstances,
以后还有没有接触和交往，比如同
whether
事啊、
I
家
will
人啊、
have
朋友啊，
any,
如果
you
以后
know,
还继续交往的话，我总有机会
relationship
或者
with
总有
these
一个时
people,
间能够去在
if
适
I
当的情
still
况下解释啊，或者说也许以后
can
他
have
能够
opportunity to
看到
deal
我
with
的这
them,
个
maybe
好
I'll
的态
still
度是消
find
融的，这个没
an
有问题。
opportunity to explain it,
还有
and
一
so
种情
that
况呢，这
the
个人就跟你也没
misunderstanding
啥关
will
系，
dissolve.
真的就是误会了
Well,
就误会了，
if
就无所谓，就不往心里去。
if this is a misunderstanding and
那
this
还有呢，就是
person
我的
doesn't
个人经验
have
呢，
any relationship
就是
with you, maybe you should just
嘱咐
let
大家的
go
是，
and forget about it.
首先
Well,
不
Grandmaster
要
says,
故意做
I'd like to
人家
remind
容
you,
易误会的事。
try
对，
not
自
to
己还
do
是要注意
something
到。
that will
有的
easily
时
be
候是我们比较
misunderstood.
熟悉，
Sometimes
比如说我面
because
对
we're
他夫
very
妻，因为我们
familiar.
都太
Say,
熟
for
悉了。
example,
说你
that
是女
couple,
生
we're so
和
familiar
对方
with
的
the
夫妻俩一
both
起
of them.
啊
Say, for
吃饭
example,
呐
you're
或者
a
聊天啊
lady
旅游啊，是吧？
and maybe you're
你这个
having
女生， 你只管
dinner
给对方
together
的这个
or
男
you're
生
traveled together.
表示着很多亲切。
If
其
this
实你觉得好
lady
玩，说我故
is
意逗
just
我的
getting
女士的
will
朋
say
友
a lot of
看他是否
close
有反应，
words to
不好，
the
一定是
husband,
误会的。
you're
不要
trying,
做这
well,
样的一个
don't
尝
do
试。
that.
这样就是。
一
And
定
this
会
is
误会。
not
对，
good to do.
一定会
You would
误会。
definitely cause
那么如果这个
misunderstanding.
事如果没发生在他
If
看到你们的女朋友这些，大家知道没有什么歪心眼儿哈，大家
Well,
都
we
熟
know
悉的，就
that
瞎闹。
you're
没事。
just familiar
说了，没有
friends
事。
and you're
但是
not
看到了
doing
就
anything
这
wrong.
眼
But
见为净这个事。
是
啊，其实本来看到也没事儿，但是看到了，自然的，
when
你的身份
you
就决定了，你一定会心酸，会不舒服
when you see that
啊，所以不要故
the
意
man
做。
and this
令人
girl
容
is
易误会的
together,
事。
it's easily to cause misunderstanding. So
那么第二
don't
个
do
呢，
something that is easily be
很多的
misunderstood.
事情，很多
Secondly,
的事情，
a lot of things,
无论公司也好，
whether
朋友之
it
间也好，
is a
很多的
company
事情，
in the
其实
company
都需
or
要
between
直接语
friends,
言沟通的。
you probably need
现
some
在有了这个手机，
direct
大家拿那
communication.
个手机之后就
Now
发
we
信
have
息，
cell phones. We
所以
always
我自己
send
就有感
messages.
觉，
So,
有的时候
well,
有朋友给我
actually,
发信息，
from my own
算
experience,
很
I
长
found
100个字算很
a
长，对不对？
friend send me a long message, say, for
在我
example,
在
with
解读的时
100
候，我
words.
觉得
That's a
不
long
太对。
message, right? But when I
但
read
是我
it,
是容易替别人着想的，
I think,
说
oh, that's
肯
probably
定是
wrong.
因为
But I
年龄大
always
看
try
不清字
to
儿，
put
所
myself
以
in
很
other
多
people's shoes.
话呢就是
And so
压缩了，甚至
I
还点错
usually
了
would
键，
think that,
甚至还
oh,
点错了键，
maybe
字儿也错
they
的，
just
可不该发
make
的时候发出来了。
summarize too
还有
much,
这种
or
状况。
maybe they have
所以遇到这种事情的时候，
misspelled a
相对比
word.
较重要的时候，
And so
我一定会
if it
给
is
他
an
发信
important
息，
thing,
方便语音
then
吗？
I
我
will
们通话
send
我就会
a
这样要
message
求，
to say, oh,
因为里
is
面
it
写的这些
convenient
字
for
儿
us to talk?
很多我觉得不合情理，
Because
一
when I
定是
read
因
the
为写
message,
字
a
的
lot of
障
them
碍
are
造成的
not
错误。
reasonable. Maybe
所以
it's
我给他通话一通，
because,
哇，这么简
you
单
know,
呐！
so
你也有
usually
这
I
感
would
觉吗？
try to talk to
对，
them,
有的
and then
只
I
看
feel,
对方的信息，
oh,
觉得对呀，这怎
so
么回
when
事？
I just
对，
look at the
但是
message,
这个是因为
it's
替人家
not
着想
very,
哈，一般情况下
well,
就误解了，
it's
他光
like
看着字
not
面意思就
reasonable.
误解
So
了。
you,
对，
and
手机还有一种情况就是，
if you just look at the message,
字
maybe
呢
you are
他也没写
misunderstood.
错，是这个
But
意思，
after
但是
you
你
talk
看
to
起
them
来就很
directly,
冷，
then
或者很它
um,
缺少一种
there's no
情
problem
感
at all.
没错，
有的时候
And
也
so
会误解。
没错，
但是
没错。
你要是真是跟他语音
So
沟通的话，
sometimes Joyce
其
is
实人
saying
家一点儿都不
sometimes
冷，其实
those
是
words
对，
can
很正常，很
feel
热情
very
的。
对，
cold or
甚至还有一种
mean,
反的哈，
but when you talk to
对
them,
方
you
是冷
don't
的，
feel
但是说话
mean
比
at
较
all.
客气，就写字的时候，
哎哎哎，
对吧？
也是的。
但是
And
你要
some
打电
people,
话，你在
when
通过听
they're
感觉的时
writing,
候，你能感觉到
it's
你的内
completely
心的感
different
觉，
from
没错，
是和你
what
继续
they
交朋友
actually
还
feel.
是
But when you
不交
talk
了，
to
或者
them,
是
you will
淡化一
directly
点，你
feel
能体会到那种感觉，对不对？
whether he
但是
still
有
wants
时
to
候
be a
你在
friend
看
with
字的时候
you
完全
or
会弄反了。
he,
对，这就
yeah.
是
But when you are
而有
reading
些
the
人什么
message,
呢？
sometimes you'll
内心很
completely
冰冷，说话
misunderstood.
很客气
对，
啊，说话很热情
是，
啊，
You know, some
有
people
这
maybe
样的
their heart is very cold, but then they write messages like very politely or even very enthusiastic. Maybe they are professionally
就是按照我们
trained.
北方说比较老油条级别，他说话很
Yeah,
客气，内心很
so
明朗。
they actually they can
Yeah,
write
no,
very
我们这个社会，
professional words
在
or
这种
very
情况下，
polite,
要
but
有一个
actually they are
当面或
not
者直接通话说。
enthusiastic at all.
有些最重要
So
的事，
better to talk to them directly. And a lot of things maybe, yeah, sometimes even in a phone call, you can still have misunderstandings because you haven't seen him or her. Like face to face, it would be even better. Because our five senses, from looking at him, when you hear the voice and your facial expressions. So sometimes even, the facial expression, the voice, everything is fine, but you still don't feel right because it's your intuition. You just feel not right. So from the written message, yeah, so the best way is that you can meet face to face. If that's not possible, then at least talk. And then maybe, yeah, if it's really impossible, then you just send message. Well, maybe at midnight somebody sent a message. They send a message saying inviting you for dinner, but actually they send a wrong message and say that actually because he just had a long flight and he just pressed the wrong key. So good communication can actually turn conflict into friendship. So like they were almost turning into enemies, but because of communication, they eventually turn into friends and say, oh, what you mean is actually this. So communication is really important. For the most important things, you should say face to face. And a little bit less important, then you should do it. You should communicate through at least phone calls. So in ancient times, when they have those battles, and they have those people who are very good at talking or persuading, and so they will send this person to the other country to try to persuade the other king. And sometimes just by talking to the other king, the whole war will be cancelled. Like they don't need to fight anymore. So sometimes even face-to-face can even have misunderstandings. I remember once in a class I said, I think we were 5 of us. I said, well, let's go find some food, 5 lunches, but he only bought 1 lunch for me alone. So I can even see everybody is like starving, but he only bought 1 lunch. And then he said, oh, Grandmaster, you didn't tell me to buy 5. And so I said, okay. Oh. Anyways, I don't want to say more. Just go and buy 4 more. And in addition, I asked him to buy even more so that those 4 won't feel too bad. Well, the reason is that I didn't say that clear. I didn't say it completely clear, like buy 5 lunches and we 5 will eat lunch together. Well, yeah, that young people, he didn't know whether the 4 people will stay for lunch or, so he didn't ask. And I didn't make it very clear. So that was face-to-face, but still we had misunderstanding. So even face-to-face, especially for something very important, we need to make it very, very clear. If you are asking someone to do something, so the first group, you do that. You need to make it very clear to what extent and where to stop and at what time you should do it. Say, for example, now it's 10 a.m. Okay, before noon, within 2 hours, can you do it? And can you do that? And sometimes you arrange them to do something. And then in the afternoon, you couldn't find them. And then he
是吧
said, "Oh,
你
I
没有
thought
安排
I
时
can
间
do it next week."
对，
So
沟通的
it's
精
your
细性。
problem. You didn't
所以
make
你
it very
看
clear.
沟
So
通
see,
还有
communication
叫精细的沟通
and
多么重要。
communicate the details
对，
is so
所以我们有的时候
important.
自己说的
And
人明白，
sometimes,
可是
well,
听的人在
yes,
猜。
I know all the details,
这个
but
时候就
the
提醒
people
一
who is
些年
listening
轻的
doesn't
刚
know
入
the
职场
details.
的
They
哈
have to
比如
just
说因为我们是
guess.
小辈，或者说
And
一进来比较
so
年轻，
Joy
尤其是
said
上司
sometimes
啊
because
老
we
一
are
点的同
young
事
or
布
maybe
置工
we're
作或者
just
沟通工作的
new
时候，
here
年轻
and
人还是多问一
young
句，
people
老板说的说，
or
哎，你
newer
做这个
people
事
should
情，哎，
ask
哦，
a little
老
bit
板我是
more.
这样
If
理
the
解的，
boss
这
asks you
样
to
这
do
样这样吗？
something,
重复
maybe
一
the young
遍，
people
这
can
样子，老板说对，你
repeat
理解对
what
的，
the
你也
boss
踏
said.
实，老板也
Is
踏
my
实，别
understanding
猜。
clear?
像
So
职
don't
场
just
老人都是
guess.
这样工作的，
嗯，
大家配合工作哈，不分上下
So
级，就彼此都要问清楚，
是，
Yeah,
问得
when
越
we are
清楚，
working
其实反
together,
而效率越高。
the
那
more
没有
we
这个职场经验的
ask
人，
and make
可能
everything clear,
很紧急，啰嗦这么
the
多干嘛？
easier
你
for
去
the
做就
work.
完了，其实做了全是错的，根本
对
不是你
难以
要的。
Sometimes you think,
对不
oh,
对？
it's very urgent.
所以
You
我
don't
在
have
做事
time
的
to
方
make it
法
very
呢，
clear,
我
but
的经验
then
是
that will make
这件
things
事
even
说的时候
worse.
说清楚，
So I
你
would
还给我
say
重复，看着
when
写下来，
you
是
when
吧？
when I ask someone to
买
do
5个人的
something,
午
I
餐，
try to make it
还有
very
不要这个
clear
不要那
and I
个，
will ask
而且
you
还
to
必须要
repeat
买
it
什么，你
to
要说
me
得清
and to
楚。
make sure that
你
you
说的时
understand
候花了
correctly.
5分钟的啰嗦，
Maybe you
但是
spend 5
真解
minutes
决了
to
问题。
make
保证结果是
these
对的。
instructions very
结果
clear,
你省了
but
5分
that
钟
will
的安排说
guarantee
话
the
的时间，
result will
买
be
回来
the
都是
right
错的，
result.
整个中午
Maybe
都没
you
饭吃，
saved
甚至大家
5
误会了，
minutes,
甚至还
but
和你
you
成
know
为
the result will be
这个
completely
关系还
different.
闹掰了。
And sometimes it can
对，
even
所以
hurt
在
the
安排工
relationship.
作的时候，多
So
花一点时间，没啥
when
坏。
we're arranging the work,
沟通
spending a little bit more
至关
time
重要。
is very
那么
important.
你的
So
沟通的语气
communication
和方法，
is
这个要学会
critical.
平
And
心静气
when
的
we're
沟通，这是
communicating,
最有
we
效的
should
沟通。
try to
说的越清
communicate
楚，就越有效
calmly.
率；说的越
and
含糊，就一定没效
clearly.
率。
If
就是这
you
样，谢谢。
communicate
好，
clearly,
师
then
傅
it will be
还有问题？
efficient.
哎，
Otherwise,
咱们网友眼
you
睛很
don't
尖
know
啊，
what
就是看
result
到
will
那边
come.
那个佛像，首先是非
Well,
常的美，然后旁
uh,
边
some
呢还有
online
还
friends
有一
said
个这个没有见过的
yeah,
葫芦
the
形的
Buddha
金
statue
丝瓶，
looks
也想
really
请师傅
nice.
给介绍一下。我们前面都在直播中学过很多的风水呀，这
And
些
there's
哈。
something besides
这个是
the
一个
Buddha
怎么
statue
样
that
的
we
瓶
haven't
子，对我
seen
们的风
before.
水聚财
And
有没
does
有
it
好的
help
帮
with
助
our
啊？
feng
师傅
shui? How does it
好。
help?
我这个把大瓶子拿过来给大家
Let
看
me
一看。
show you
还这
this
么大
vase.
哈，
对，
It's a large
这个瓶
vase.
子应该有30多公分的
This
那
vase
么
is
高。
about 30
这个
centimeters
这个
tall.
样子呢，实际
The
上
shape
有
of
一
the
种植物
vase
的样子，就是这样。
is
它长出来的那个
actually
果实就是一
imitates
个葫
a
芦形的。
fruit.
葫芦，对，
那么古人
It
呢，
imitates
那个时候
a
缺
type
少
of
这
gourd.
种现在人工制造出来的这个容器的时候，
So in the
比如
ancient
盛
times,
水、
there
盛酒、盛
are
油，
very
是
few
吧？盛液
man-made
体
vessels.
都需要一个容器嘛。
So if you
说
want
这
to
个东
hold
西挺
some
好。
liquid,
那
you need to
中间
have
这
a
个掐
vessel
腰
to
束
hold
腰
it.
的这个部分呢，它可以绑上一个带子，
And
挂在
this
腰上，
fruit
或者挂在某个
is
地方，
a natural
也容易
vessel.
绑起来挂，对不对？
对，很实用。
这样的
It's a
话就
So
不会
and
有卫
there
生的问题，不
is
会有老鼠来
a
来
narrow
咬它，对
part
不对
in？the gourd
这就
that
很好。
makes it very
像它这个
easy
口
to
小呢，就
tie
那个
up
小盖子
and
一
you can
堵，
tie it onto
哎
your
装
waist
了
or
液体
tie
不
it
容易出来。
somewhere.
对，
对，
And
那这个
also
瓶呢就
the
仿制那样的。
opening is very
所
small,
以大家
so
在看，
it's
因为毕
more
竟不是古
difficult
代
to
了哈，
lose
像我们
liquid.
小时候都用过类似这样的葫芦
And
呢。
such a
切一
gourd is
半
not
之后
only
用来
used in
舀
the
水。
ancient times, but it is also used
河北、
in the
山东、
modern
河南
times. For
都叫它
example,
叫
when I
瓢，
was
就是舀
small,
水的。
such a gourd
啊
would be
像
cut
小一
into
点的
half
葫
and
芦呢，
use
是用来
it
装药的，
to
给它掏
as
空
a
之后，
spoon.
是吧？弄干净了，
And
消过
very
毒，
small,
装药
very
丸。
small gourds
所以你过去
are
你看那些
used
老
as a
神仙
vessel
长辈
to
那些老人
hold
家，老医
medicine.
生倒药丸。
仙丹，
那过去没有 玻璃瓶啊，
是
对吧？哎，
it
那
would
个
be
仙
used
丹
to
的丹，
hold
丹就是丹药，
pills.
对，
就是药，就最早的中药，就搓
And
成球
for，example, the
用
early
用拌上
Chinese
蜂蜜搓
medicine
成球，
pills,
来
they
保
are
质，
made
它保持
into
期比较长，
like
就
a
装在
small
这个小
round
葫芦瓶里
pill,
头。
and such a
啊
pill would
所以
be
这个瓶
placed
子就是一个
in
容器。
these types of
那么
bottle
像我们之
gourd.
前那个瓶子，叫
The
叫什么？
vases that we have seen
啊，像
before,
玉壶春行是吧？
for
那个
example,
瓶子，
there
其实它
was
模
one
仿
in the
什么呢？
shape of 玉
就
壶
过
春.
去那个，我不说了，大家会有点恶心。
葫芦瓶。
对
So
对，那个像这种瓶子呢，
this
这种瓶子就
this
是
vase
模仿那个植物
imitates
葫芦的样子啊。
the
对，
bottle
那
gourd.
现在我们把它做出来呢，从古人到
And
现在，
From
都
the
是用来
ancient
聚财
times
的。
to modern times, it's
聚
used as a
财。
treasure vase.
在过去炼丹装丹药的时候也用它，
And
所以它是
also,
健康和长寿
so
的。
it has been used
象征着
to
健康长寿，
contain
这太重要了，
medicine
对。
每个人
pills.
都需要。
And so
对。
it represents
那
health
那
and
从风水聚
longevity
财来
too.
说的话呢，
So
就是
in the
它
terms of feng
多了一
shui,
层口，
it
啊，
has
就
it
像
actually has
就
two
两个肚子。
openings
有两个肚
because
子，
it
两个仓
has
一样，
two
它就
abdomens,
多容纳了很
so
多。
that you have
像
two
我记得说牛啊还是骆驼
two
有两个胃，
containers
是吧
for
牛有
storage.
4个胃，好
有
像
4个
是。
胃，这么
Like a
多。
cow.
哦，
A cow
对。
has 4 stomachs, right?
对，其实你多一点装，
So you
装
have
东西的
extra
地方，
space
对你的
to
容
store
量就多。
things.
嗯，
对，所以它多了一个口呢，
So
就
there
多了
are
一份存
there's
储的
an
意思。
extra opening.
所以
So
呢，
it has
从
an extra
就是从
meaning of
财富，
storage.
从能量学说的
So
话
in
呢，
terms of
就是当有
energy,
负面的能量，
when
比如你
there
这里是
are
有点路
negative
冲，路
energies,
煞
for
气
example,
啊，不好，
if there are
对，希
negative
望这个
energies
瓶
coming from a
能把这个能
road,
量吸进来之后，
then this
转
bottle
变，
is able to
叫转化。
attracts
为什么
it
转化在里面它是
attract
圆的？
and store the negative energy
事实上是
and
这样。
transform it
你
inside
比如
its
说
round
这个
belly.
风，本来这个世上
And
没有
that's
风
true.
在屋里头哈，
For
你
example,
打开那个电
there
风
is
扇一
no
吹，
wind in
是吧？去
a
拨
natural
动空
room,
气，
right?
我们
Say
就感
that
觉
if
这
you
是风
open a
空
fan,
气被吹打过来。
there
对
is
对，流动过来了。
那种
the
吹一
air
个地方会
flows
得病，
in
对
the
不对？
room.
是，
对，
And if
所
it's
以
a draft,
风
it
就
can
是空气，
be
这空气
unhealthy.
本来没有什么有害的，就
So
善用它，所以
in
把这个负的
nature-
能量吸收进来，再吐出来就是温和的。
in nature, when
转
this
化，
bottle
转化危机，
takes in the
转化煞
negative
气，
energy,
转化
transform
邪
it,
气
and
啊，还能聚财。
it
啊，这是
releases
至少这
positive
个是我们
energy.
所期望的这样的一个
And
效果。
also, it
聚财
accumulates
聚福
wealth
转化
and
那
fortune.
还有葫芦，咱们古人也是，它有一个谐音嘛，就是福和禄。
对
The
是不是
bottle
也
gourd
对
in
也有这个
Chinese
说法。
also
哎，它有个 福禄，
is similar
你像过
sounding
去一个
to
常人所追求的
fortune
人生
and
就是福禄寿
stature.
是吧？
对呀，
And this
哎
is something
有
that
福
many ancients
就是有饭吃
pursue.
有钱花，比较富
When you
贵。
have fortune, that
是吧？
means that you
禄
have
呢
food
是
and
官，
clothing.
做官
And
官爵
stature
官位，
represents
能
official
吃皇
stature,
上的俸禄，
that
也就是
you
每个月都
hold
有工资给
a
你，你这多好啊，真
job
办了。
in the government.
哎，
And so
那
you
这
have
些多好
salary
呢？
every
就是
month.
又有财又有福，又
And
有
so
名
that
又有
means that
钱，
you
还
have
有
money,
长寿。
you have fortune,
这
you
这
have
就
good
是
health.
人生的追求的三财
And
哈。
that's
对
what most people
这是
pursue for their
我
life,
我
right?
想现在是大家也在追求这个
And
东
I
西。
think it's
对
probably the
保
same
我们
even
也
in
是可以
modern
请回
times.
家放在家里，改变风水。
对
So
镇
we can
宅
use this
嗯
啊
bottle
然后还给
gourd
家
to
人带来
change
健康
our
长寿
对
福
to
气
change the
财
feng
富
shui at home.
我们这个
and
葫芦瓶的制
accumulate
作啊都
wealth.
是非常精美的。
So
它
this
这个
bottle
就是
gourd
模仿，也
vase
是
is
宋朝宋徽宗
very
时期
well
最喜欢
made,
的，
and the
有个天
color
晴色，
imitates
天
啊
晴色。
就是一个
imitates the
清晨的
color
一个色。但是
of
在
the
这个
sky
宋
after
朝
a shower.
这个
In the
宋
Song Dynasty,
宋徽宗之前是没有这个颜色的，
before
因为在之前
the
是
Song
唐
Dynasty,
是吧？唐的
before
三
the
彩
Song Dynasty, there's
那个
no
三彩
such a
色
color.
会比较清新啊，有
Before the
它
Song
是混
Dynasty
用，
is the Tang
这
Dynasty.
个色呢
And
是
we
皇帝
see
当时
the
喜欢的色，
three very strong colors
对
from the Tang
因为在
Dynasty.
唐代时期呢，宫廷用的那个容器啊、器皿，包括
But-
洗脸盆，都是金的或者铜鎏金，
And also in the
那是
Tang
金的比较
Dynasty,
多，
most of
因为
the
和西域、中东地区的贸易往来
vessels
多，
that are
是吧
used？
但等
are
到之后
made
呢，
of
到了
gold
宋代的
or
时候，
bronze.
可国外贸易
But
变少了，
and that's because
还有
there
呢
was a
金的
lot
又
of
用在
trade
最重要的
with
地方，所以宋徽宗他们
with
这个宋代的
Europe.
皇帝也比较节俭，
But in the
说我
Song
们不要用金
Dynasty,
的，
there was
我们用
less
陶瓷和
trade.
木头的来代替。
And so they use
这
less
样
gold
但是
and
呢，
use
皇帝
more
呢，
wood
因为
and
宋徽宗是艺
porcelain.
术家，他对于颜
And
色呀、
the
形状
Emperor
的欣赏
Hui
是
Zong
很
of
高，
Song
所以
is
宋徽
actually
宗
an
画的画儿是
artist.
非常美的。
He
他
is
画那
very
个
good
花
at
卉小鸟
painting,
啊，这是活灵活
painting
现的啊。
flowers and
对，所以
birds.
他对颜色的本
So
身
he
认识也比较
Has a
有
very
深
good
入
a
啊。
very
所以呢，他呢
in-depth
就是
understanding of
创立
color.
了这个颜色。
And so he
所以有一
made
天他白
he
天做梦
created this color.
啊，就梦
One
到了
day
这个
he
雨后
took a
天
nap
晴的那个
and he
本着的感
dreamed
觉与什么
of
天职
the
来拜
color
访
of an
那个
azure
故事我
sky
是忘
that
记了
appears
啊
after
那
a
么他就
rainy
记住一个
day.
颜色，
So he
告诉
remembered
大
this
臣
color
给我烧这样的
and
瓷器
told his government
啊，那人
officials
大
to
臣们
make
争相模仿啊，想方设法给它
porcelain
烧制，
in this
最后就
color.
出来了。 那现
And
在我们这个
they
呢就是模
created
仿那
this
时候那个
color
色，
successfully.
但是呢这是中国龙泉窑，这
And
是
so
最
so
贵的
this
一个厂
vase
家帮我们
imitates
做的，
this
所以它的做
color
工非常的
from
精
the
美。
Song
我从这
Dynasty,
边看着
and
都
it
是
is
那种
very
很
well
润然后
made
很光亮
by
的
one of the
对
most
真的很
prominent
好。
factories in China.
对，所以它每一层的这个圆啊，就是个容器，代表着
The
圆满的意
roundness
思。
also symbolizes
这个
perfection
富贵
and
长寿
completeness.
啊，这里福禄寿都有了。
So there's
感恩师傅的加
wealth,
持
是吧
fortune,
比如
and
说福禄
longevity.
中间就是寿啊。
哎呀，这个寿我们也特别需要哎。
是吧
And
对呀，
in
对啊，
Chinese,
你
longevity
不能富成
also
一个皮球是吧？
has
哎
the
对，
same
所以中间如果
pronunciation
有个腰
as
的话就更
skin
好一些。
as a
哎
slim
凡
person.
是女人
And
到
so
年长之后，
There
如
is a
果还能看
waist
到腰的时候，
in
容易长寿；
on the vase
如
too.
果看不到腰的话，要
So
小心
for a
啊，
woman,
要多走
if
八卦才行。
when you're in your
哦，我们
middle
真的要向
ages
这个
and
葫芦瓶
you
学
still
习。
have a very small
有福
waist,
有
对
that might
这个瓶子有个好
indicate
处，它
good
是口
health
少肚子
and
大，
indicate
对，
a
所以
long
它的
life
容量就
too.
比较大一点。
And so this bottle has
所
a
以
very small
希
opening
望
but
大
a
家
very
对它
large
有一点
abdomen,
认
so it
识。
has a
这
very
个做工啊，
large
它
storage
的做工的
space.
精美度呢，是我们模仿到中国最高的精美度，
So
就
this
是模仿
vase
这个
is very well made,
清代皇
and
帝乾隆皇帝时期
the
的瓷器的那
quality
个品质。
the
哎
quality
这个底部
is
都这么
very
精美
similar
啊
对，
to the porcelain that was
非常的
produced
精
in
美
the Qing
非常
dynasty.
的精美，它的
It
颜
is
色
very
的
well done.
滋润啊，
嗯，
美感。
The
看这个
fullness
单
of
调
the
的，
colors.
今天把它放在任何一个
Although it's
场所
just
下，
a
它都是
plain
显得是
color,
高贵。
but it shows
那它这样
graciously.
单着摆放，还有也可以配我们的七彩小
So
宝瓶，
this
那是更好。
bottle
也可以
can
形成
be
这个七星八卦阵哈。
placed
对，那是更
individually
好。
or placed as
对
part of
它
the
单个放在任何一
the
个地
seven
方，都是觉得
constellation
富贵高雅。
um,
感恩师傅，我们的网
placement
友有
with
福
the
了，
seven
今天
small
在直
treasure
播中听
vases.
到师傅这样的介绍
We're
哈，
very
可以
lucky
到
to
慈悲
hear
音网站
Master's
去请购。
introduction of
那
this
北
vase.
美的同
And
修们呢，
this
也可以
treasure
联络
vase
慈悲
is
音北
available
美
on
啊，
CiBeiYin.com.
他们这边我们都准备好了
And
哈，几个真的是，
有一
It's
个网友
also
呢，他是
available
在那
at
个
the
大酒
CiBeiYin
店
North
就
America
是任
store.
经理啊，
There
他也把
is
这个瓶
a
呢，就
practitioner
放在
who
他们
is
那个，他是
a
5星级酒
manager
店呢，新
at
加
a
坡
five-star
放在
hotel
他那
in
个大
Singapore,
堂的这
and
个有咖啡座，
he
都是金碧
placed
辉煌的，其中一个
this
角上有两
vase.
个角上各放了一个，
He placed
很
two
多的
of
客人
such a
路过
vase
都觉得哇
on
真漂亮，
in
这
the
个以为是
coffee
宋
shop
代的那个
in
东西，
the
后
hotel
来问
lobby,
价钱，说
and
这是仿制的，这
many
是
customers
新
thought
的，
that it's not
大家
antique,
都会觉得
and
很
they were
很
all
羡慕，
asking
很
about the
高雅。
对
prices.
高贵。
对
They were
对
very
对，所以他就
amazed to
感觉在
see
5星级
such
酒店没有那么的
graciousness.
适称啊，所以放在
So
我们
it's
家里
even
让我们
suitable
整
for
个
a
全家
five-star
都有这种
hotel,
星级提升的感觉。
and
真的
it's
是
going
神
to
奇
make our home
所以大
much
家也学会艺
beautiful
术欣
too.
赏当中，对
And
于
so we
单
need to
颜色的
learn
欣
to
赏，
appreciate
啊，
art
单
and
一的
also
色的欣赏的
appreciate
它
simple
的高贵
colors.
性可能会超越复
Sometimes
杂的
such
颜
a
色。
simple color may
所以这个
bear
叫
more
什么色还记得吗？
grace and beauty
啊，
than
雨后天晴
than
色。
雨
a
后天
mixture
晴
of
哎
colors.
对，
太美
And
了。
so
天
this
晴色
color
对，非
is
常的美。
a type of
嗯。
azure that
这是我
appears
们费了
after
大
a
功夫
rainy day.
啊，对，这个现在是我们慈悲上已
We
经有销售
made
了
a lot
已
of
经有了，
effort to
对
make
对
such a
好
vase,
感恩师
and
傅。
right now
喜欢的网友
it
呢
is
去
available
CiBeiYin
on
上去看一下。
CiBeiYin.com. If you're
嗯，
interested in it, you
对，
can
慈
take
悲
a
上
look
还有
on
很多就是
CiBeiYin.com.
法宝类的，
On
可能对大家都
CiBeiYin.com,
有
there
帮
are
助
many
啊。
other
是
Dharma
是，
items
今天
that
网友们
might
也
help
看
you.
到那个印象东方啊，在
对
师傅背后这个墙
Master,
上哈，展
many
示出来
people
特别的
saw
美啊，特别的美。
the
因为前
impression
面
of the
他们
Eastern
大
Pure
家
Land
抢了
hanging
抢不
on the
到，嗯，
这个是
wall
我们
behind
这个
you.
的，因为前面那个少年菩提哈，网友们非常喜欢。
太喜欢了。
对，这个呢是后做的，
The-
后做的之后，
the
大家
vision
没
of
有
the
看到
Eastern
制作的
Pure
过
Land
程哈。我也相信很多人
is
并不
also
了解
painted
它，
by me,
也可能没那么
but
喜
you
欢。
didn't see the
所以
process of me
但是
painting
知道
it.
的人又想要，
对，
所以我们就会这一次呢，就是
And
限量出，全球
we have
供应就
released
是
it at a
280
limited
来着
quantity.
大概就是这样。 不要再
Globally,
多供了。
about 280
好
are，
我们还
available.
是说点别的吧。
好
Let's
的
talk
好
about
的
something
好
else.
感恩师傅。
嗯
那前面就是在这个这么长时间以来的直播中，师傅带
Master,
领大家
in
念佛祈福，还
all
有给予很多的
these
加持哈。
um,
我们网友
live
很多的
broadcast
回馈，
sessions,
接受
Master
师
has
傅的
led
加持，
chanting and
身
energy
心灵健
healings.
康的
Many people
疾
had
病消
positive
失的
feedbacks
各种各样的哈。刚刚
and
还有看到
a
网
lot
友
of
有写，还有
sharings.
祈福的，还有找到好工作的
And
呀，
there
什
are
么都
people
找到
who
了，心想事
found
成，非
a
常的
good
感恩
job
师傅。
and have their wishes
好
came true.
那今天回答了很多网友的
I've
问题。
answered many
那么
questions
接下来
today.
呢，我想呢，
Next,
因为有一段时间没给大家做加
I
持
feel
哈
that we should
对
do the
那
energy healing
今天
because
呢
we
给大家
haven't
做
done
一
it
些加
for
持
a very long time.
希望大
So
家
let's
健
do
康
some
快乐。
energy healing
感恩
today.
师傅。
I wish
好
you
我们准
all
备一下。
health and happiness.
Facebook 上来写出来，写出来的话呢，哈，能够得到更好的对应，得到
If
师
you
傅
have
的
any
加持
needs,
护
you
佑
can
和菩萨的加
comment
持
it
护
on
佑，
Facebook
你
and YouTube
心想事成，
so
达
that your
成愿望。
wishes may come true and your wishes may be blessed and protected by the Buddha.
好，那网友们就可以
All right.
放松，
So, friends
接
online,
受
you can
啊
start to
用一种
relax.
欢喜接受的
And
心，
Your
轻松的
mind
身
should be
心
relaxed. Your body is relaxed.
坐下来，
Your state of mind is joyful. And you're
盘
receiving.
腿也可以，怎么
Take
样
a
做都
seat.
可以，
You
只要
can
是
sit with
轻
your
松
legs
自然
crossed
的，
as long as
然后
you
跟
are
师傅
relaxed.
呢融为一体，融合进来。
Visualize that
接
you
受
are
师傅的
one
能量
with
的大
Grandmaster
加持。
JinBodhi. You're ready to receive Grandmaster's energy healing.
"好，加持开始哈。
All right,
我呢
let's
用
start the
拔核
energy
桃的方
healing.
式，一些
Let's
新的
start
网友会觉得比较
with
新鲜哈。
The
这
walnuts.
个什么作用呢？
Some people might
没有
feel
关
that
系
this
啊
is new.
这个
What
就
does
是
it
有
do?
一些，我是希望呢，通过拔核桃
I
这个
wish
方
that
式呢，
through this
把一
method,
些健康的问题砸
I
掉。
can crush away
哎
all your
因为
health
每个人
issues.
有每个人不同的问题。
Everyone have their
我
own
是希望
issues.
让你的疾病
I hope
能够消
that
失，
your
能够
illnesses
痊愈
can disappear,
或者把
that
你
you can be
目前
healed,
遇到的障碍
or
砸
that
掉。
the obstacles that you have in life is
之前
crushed
的
away.
证明哈，能证明它
From
有
our
一定的效果，
previous energy healing
希望
sessions,
你能够
we're
得到
sure
健康。
of the results. I wish you good health.
就是大家有什么愿望呢，可以写出来哈。写出来之后对你帮
If
助
you
会
have
更大
any
一些。
wishes, you can write it down on the comment. After you write it down, it will be more helpful for you.
拿苹果来。
Bring me some apple.
好了，我是
All right.
希望让所有的朋友们
I wish
都能获得
everyone
健康。
to receive good health.
现在的加持可能有一定的效果，
I think that
大家也
energy
不要
healing
强
has some
求，更多
positive
的还是
effects.
需要多练功，
But in
多去
addition,
走八
you
卦，
also need to
多去做
practice.
一些
You
修炼
need
的事，
to practice
这样才
energy
会真
bagua
正对我们的健康
and
有
cultivate
帮助。
so that your health
加
is
持
truly
也当然是
transformed.
其中一个具有一定的帮助性的这个效
Of
果。
course, energy healing can help too.
那我们在下一次直播的时间是
All right,
温
when is
哥
our
华的
next
周六的
live
晚上
feed?
7点钟，亚洲
In Vancouver
周日
time,
的
it will be
周日的
Saturday.
上午10点钟。
Saturday evening at 7
日期的话
p.m.
是10
And
温哥华是10
in
月
that
10
would
号，
be October
嗯
10th
这
温哥华
边
10月
in
10号
Vancouver
亚洲
at
是
7
11号
p.m.
亚洲11号，
and October
嗯
11th in
那
Asia
是
at 10 a.m.
温哥华时间是10月10
So
号的
Vancouver time,
晚上
October
7点。
10th
对，
at 7
那这
p.m.
个亚洲的台北、
And
北京时间呢
In Asia, that would be
10月
October
11号
11th,
的上午10点钟。
对，
and it will be in the
哎
morning at
那
10 a.m.
在经过很多网友的这个来信等这个询问
In
和
many
聊天过程之中呢，
mails and comments that I
哎
received from our
我选择
online
了一个
friends,
话题，
I chose a
会
topic,
可能会
and
成为一
maybe
个系列的话题，
and maybe it will
就是
become a
像那个家
series,
训一样。
a series like
那现在的
like the
话
family
题
precepts.
大话题叫做选择。
The large topic
因为
is
人生
called
之中有很
choice.
多方方
In our
面面的选
life,
择性。
there are
比如说
many
今天中午吃
choices
什
that
么，
we need to make. For example, what are we having for lunch today?
还有明天过节我穿什么衣服，
Or
今天吃什么
tomorrow, what clothing should I wear in the
那
celebration?
么
There are
我们
many
的
choices we need to
接下
make.
来选择中的第一个话题就是
In the
就业
first series of choices,
创业。
our first topic
就业
is
就是找个工
whether
作
we
去打
should
工，
find a job
创业就
or
是自
start
己
our own
做经
business.
营和做老板。哎，到底做哪一个？
Which one of these will be better?
那就在我们的亚洲时间11
So
号
in Asia,
北美时间
October
10号
11th, and
刚才
in
说
North
过的这个
America,
时间，
October 10th.
欢迎大家来
I
参与，
welcome everyone to
可能
join
会
me
很有
online.
意思，
Maybe
也
it
可
will be a
能
very
会很
ve-
有启发
very
性。
interesting or very
相信一定是
inspirational.
这样的，因为我们网友们
Yes,
都在
Master,
发
I
现
believe
啊
so.
是不是讲的
Many
生命啊
friends
生命啊
have
我们都
learned
学到太多
a
太多
lot
了
through
感恩
our
的非常非常
family
的感恩
precept
师傅
series
我
and
们
faith
期望
series.
期待着
嗯
3天以后
这个家训呢，
And
在
I look
来信
forward
的
to the
整个这
series
个
of
反应和调查之
live
中呢，
broadcast.
各种年龄层的朋友们
In
影响还
our
是不错的，
family precept
之前我没
series of
有
live
想到
broadcast,
有这么多细节。
many
所以我的
people
家
had
庭
very
当
good
中
feedback.
我们的关系有
Many
之前
people
是有
say
这样
that
的
they
缺
didn't
憾，
realize
还
that
有
there
做
are
老
so
板
many
说，
details that
之
we
前
need to
不
be
懂得
careful about
说这
in
个
our
管理
daily
中
lives.
之中也有这么多
And
能力
some
和概念，还有这么多
management
心理的精
even
神
say
的
that
这些东西，
there are so
之前是
many
不懂的。
psychological things and
那这一
management
次这个选
details
择
that
呢，
they
就
didn't
也是
realize.
比之前的就更有意思。
So in this series, the topics will be even
接下
more
来你们也要
interesting
想，
than the previous live
你的
feeds.
孩子长大了，他们是自己创
Some
业当老板
parents
呢，
might
还
have the
是
same
去打
question.
工就业呢？
When your children grows up,
真
do
的那
they
么
just
简单
find a job or do they start
但
their
是
own
就业有
business?
很多，
Is
因为
it
我们
so
都是
easy?
工薪阶层，所以我就让我的孩
Some
子去
people
就
might
业，
say that
一劳永逸，多好啊！
I work for somebody
我
else.
的问题是，
My
真的
child
那
can
么
do that too.
真的那么
My
容易
question
吗？
is it really that simple?
还有你想创业当老板，真的那么容
If
易
you
吗？
want to start your own business and be your own boss, is it really easy for you to earn
大
a
家
lot of
倾
money?
家荡产，
Do you know how many people
是
have
有
lost
很多的问
everything?
题就隐藏
There
在
are many issues that are
等待着
hidden
我们
in
下
such
一
a
次开
choice.
始，大家和我一起来
So,
破解
in our next live
这
feed,
个巨大的问
let's
题。
solve this question together.
好，今天的直播就到这
All
里，
right,
祝大
that
家
completes
健
today's
康快
live
乐。
feed. I wish
大家。
everyone health and happiness. Thank you.
生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不忧忧无虑。因为有了你，日子不再有哭泣，不再有恐惧。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧